A little disclaimer before we get rolling here. You're about to hear some ads. They are all from local entities that want to support the baseball community. A lot of these guys have deep connections. We're players themselves, so if you see having a need for any one of these services, please go patronize these guys. Thank you. We are also brought to you by Milner Dentistry, located at 755 South Grand Avenue West. They can be reached at 217-528-3384. Dr. Ty and his staff are incredible. The place is clean. They do amazing work. They can handle all your dentistry needs. Thanks again to Dr. Ty for agreeing to sponsor us here. He was a standout at Rochester, SCI, and then later had a really cool story of walking on at the U of I. Have a ton of respect for this guy. Please go support Dr. Ty and Milner Dentistry. We are also brought to you by Cardinal Cleaning. They can be reached at cardinalcleaningonline.com and 217-679-6567. The owner-operator, Adam Springer, local baseball dude, family friend, standout at Chatham Glenwood in the mid-'90s, also had a stellar career at Rend Lake and Kentucky Wesleyan. Cardinal Cleaning can take care of any cleaning needs you have, home, business, restaurant, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever you need, they can take care of you. Get a hold of Cardinal Cleaning. They'll do the rest. We are also brought to you by Sitco Chiropractic. They can be reached at 217-525-2035 and sitcochiropractic.com. They offer chiropractic care, corrective exercises, lifestyle advice, nutritional counseling, spinal and postural screenings. They are located at 205 North Grand Avenue. Love the Sitco family. From the dad, Steven, to Kyle and Casey, I grew up with them. Their brother Tyler was a big-time baseball player at SHG and SCI. There's a reason they have over 70 ratings on Google, and they're all 5.0. These guys are great. I went to them a few years back for some back issues I was having. They'll fix you right up. Go see Sitco Chiropractic. We are also brought to you by Sheehan and Sheehan Lawyers, located at 1215 South 4th Street, Suite A. They can be contacted at 217-544-0701. I'm talking Pat Sr., Pat Jr., and Willie. They can be contacted for adoption needs, agricultural law, business and commercial law, estate planning, real estate planning, taxation, traffic and minor traffic offenses, personal injury, wrongful death suits. And I grew up with Willie playing baseball on the Southwest Braves. We were state champs. He played high school baseball and soccer at SHG. Pat Jr. was an accomplished baseball player at SHG, SCI, and finally the U of I. We really appreciate the Sheens here. Love this guy. Love this family. Great, great family. So go see these guys. Appreciate you. We are also brought to you by Matt Brewer. Matt is an attorney here in town at the law offices of Stephen Kelly. Matt exclusively practices in the areas of personal injury and workers' compensation. He can be reached at 217-544-8000 or mbrewer@stephenkelly.com. I loved competing against this guy growing up. He was an SHG grad, 2002, stud in football and baseball. Went on to star for Dan Callahan at SIU Carbondale, and then had a one-year career pitching in the Diamondbacks organization. I ran into this guy the other day. He looks like he could still lace him up. We appreciate you, Matt. We got you?
Yeah, sounds good. Now we got it.
Here we go, man. We're all set up. A few days later, man, thank you again for giving me some of your time. Part one couldn't have gone better from how I saw it, from how I went back and listened to it. I thought it was absolute magic. You were amazing. Your takes, your stories, your willingness to go back through little intricacies. Like I told you, there's definitely a very much so a 10-year-old boy that's still in me that is very romantic about baseball and looked up to you, and you made that little boy very happy for being so cool to me. I felt like I was talking to an old buddy, and we had never spoken before our last podcast. So thank you again for being so amazing. That was great. Sure, I've been hearing from all kinds of people reaching out. Joel and Jared Washko been hitting me up, telling me how amazing it was. Lynn Callahan's reached out, Brad Rupert, like all kinds of people are reaching out and saying how cool they thought this was. And also, thank you for not being too cool to talk about Little League and Dairy Queen and all that stuff, man. Like, That was so
No,
amazing. Yeah.
man,
How you,
can't say thanks enough to you for doing this. Like all the effort and everything else, man. I know that I've already had a ton of people that have reached out in the same way. Just saying like, hey, man, like those stories are great. Brought back some great memories, some old teammates. I mean, the Hewletts have reached out. I mean,
yeah.
so many people that I haven't talked to in a while have reached out, man. And I think it's just kudos to you about the outreach of this, and then also, man, just what you're doing, all the time and effort, man. I can't say thanks, but there's a lot of people that feel the same way, man, and are certainly excited about where this thing's going and
Yeah.
everything else.
I appreciate the kind words. I'm just following my intuition. I feel in a strange way called to do it. And it's been so fun. And I'm getting to talk to, all these guys that I either looked up to or, thought they were amazing, or I know they have interesting stories to tell. And I really think, I've been talking with my little brain trust, Alpsmeyer and Aper, and they think it was so far the best episode we've had. And the funny thing is, it went exactly time-wise how long I thought it was going to be. I know we had a
Yeah,
lot to talk about,
for
and
sure, for sure.
we talked about Little League for an hour, and that was exactly
Yeah.
what I wanted. So I was going to be really bummed out if you were going to be like, yeah, Little League was cool, and then move on. But
No, like kind of like what we had talked about. It's just so unique, right? And it
yeah,
was just such like a out of nowhere story, and
yeah,
it's like I said, something that we still look back on now and laugh that
yeah,
it actually happened. So
yeah,
it is cool.
yeah, absolutely, very special. I think around where we left off was we had just kind of completed your really stellar freshman year where you were honorable All-American, hit 310, 12 doubles, threw for 11 innings, 2.45 ERA. Had a nice summer with the Rifles where you kind of you got up with some of your old teammates, the Benskos and the JR
Yes.
Kais, and
Yeah,
some of those dudes. So that's fun that you guys get to keep playing at different levels together.
for sure.
Yeah, and so where we're at now, and we paid a lot of respect to Coach Cal, and we're going to pay more respect to him as we go here. But I thought
100%.
you did a tremendous job talking about him and what he meant to you, and it's obviously that he left his mark on you as a man, as a player, as a coach, all these things. So yeah, again, shout out
Absolutely.
to Coach Cal. Yeah, yep.
Absolutely. I wear number 37 as a coach because of him.
Yes,
Not in, my family number, all of us have worn 11 forever.
yeah,
And I felt like that was an amazing way to honor him and kind of
mhm,
what he means to me, especially, following in his footsteps of coaching.
yeah.
But yeah, I do. I wear 37
I saw
for
that.
that sole reason alone.
Yeah, did you
So.
start doing that when you were at SIU Edwardsville?
At Edwardsville, yes. As funny as this sounds, when I went back to coach with him at Carbondale, obviously he was still alive. He was the one that hired me. He actually made me bring my old jerseys back that they had given to me when I graduated. Luckily, I still fit in them, but like it was like, hey, you're going to be the same number. Like we're not buying new jerseys. Like here you go. So then when I did go to Edwardsville,
That's funny.
the coach was like, "What number do you want?" And it was a no-brainer for me. And like I said,
37.
I've kept
Beautiful.
that going. Yes.
Love that. What a special nod to him. That's really cool that you're doing that.
Yeah.
So here we go. Sophomore year. And this is some interesting stuff because, had a very strong freshman year. Sophomore year, not as strong. And like when I'm looking at the totality of all your stats here, I see a very strong freshman year. I see a couple kind of in between years, sophomore, junior, and then, you explode your senior year. But without knowing what happened and just knowing baseball to some degree, I'm thinking there's probably some scouting reports out on you now. I think you're
For
probably
sure.
seeing a lot of spin and people are
For
attacking you in
sure.
different ways. So we hit 242, 2 bombs, 9 stolen bases, through 12 innings, 4.26 ERA. Tell me about this year. What stands out? What do you remember?
Yeah, it was a lot of that. Scouting reports had changed. I had gotten a bit stronger, and it was probably like to my own detriment. Now the
Interesting.
balls that like fell in front of people were now
The-
carrying to them and were outs. And I played a bigger role, right? I didn't sneak
yeah,
up on anybody, so definitely the plan of attack was different. And it's first
yeah,
time in probably years that I had struggled. So it was really hard because the competitor in you is like, well, I just need to do more. I need to do more. I need to do more. I need to try harder. I need to
yeah,
hit more, and all those things ended up just kind of I guess, putting more pressure on myself than I really needed,
Yeah.
and I just never dug out of it. And I guess you could call it a sophomore slump, something like that, but it really wasn't. It was just I just didn't play very well. And luckily, my I played good defense during that time and kept myself in the lineup.
Yeah.
And some leadership things like that. But yeah, it was just then it really kind of carried over into the start of the next year as well. Same kind of things, and
Yeah.
there was a little bit of a light bulb or lightning moment that ends up happening that obviously changes some things for me. But I was certainly struggling and searching for some things during this time.
Do you feel like you were doing too much at times? Like, maybe taking too much swings, things like that?
For
Yeah.
sure. And I felt like in the middle of that is like the weight of the world was on my shoulders every time I went up and hit. And it
Yeah.
wasn't from my coaches or anything like that. They were super supportive, family, all that. It was just more of like I wanted to do well.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was letting people down. And it was
Yeah.
all basically coming from me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's something we all go through, especially in times like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, just keep working. That's all you can do.
Just keep going. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And like I said, I kept getting the opportunity to get in the lineup. The coaches were extremely patient, but certainly felt like that was, holding our team back a little bit too.
Yeah.
But it was, it was just something that I think we all go through at some point in time and makes us better in the long run. So.
Yeah. So was doubt creeping in? Like, were you thinking, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was, or?
I don't think that there was ever any of that. It was more of just like, hey, like I need to get this figured out, right?
Yeah.
The big part of it was I needed to stop swinging, missing, and a lot of it had to do with for the first time in my life, I was getting challenged
Yeah.
like a middle of the order hitter, and I
Right.
had never come across that,
Yeah.
not at the level of stuff that I was seeing. So that it was different. It was much different
Yeah. You talked about your freshman year being kind of surrounded by all these horses. Then you were just
for
getting a lot
sure,
of fastballs, and you look kind of unassuming. So
hundred
everyone
percent.
was just like, fastball. Let's see if this guy can hit it, and you could hit
All
fastballs.
All the time,
Yeah.
all the time, and
Yeah.
especially, like, getting challenged on the outside corner where I was like, "Thank you, that's where I wanted the ball." Nobody
Yeah.
pitches in, especially with metal bats, and it
Right.
was just like it was a heyday, and then the next year starts, and it's not a lot of that,
Yeah.
and, yeah, you wanna do more, and it ends up being detrimental instead of helping you,
Yeah.
so.
Was this sophomore year? I can't remember what you said. Did you and Greg lead the nation in double plays your sophomore or your junior year?
It was my sophomore year,
This
so
year.
his yes, it was during
Yeah.
this year where it just was like it seemed like every time we got a base runner on, we had a ton of guys that could really sink the ball on the pitching staff, and it was
Yeah.
just like, "Here it comes," and we were doing crazy things. It's funny that Greg and I are very similar. He went to
Okay.
Peoria Manual High School,
Yeah.
very similar background with the basketball as well as baseball, and we just clicked from day one. But
Yeah.
when I say like crazy things, like it just ended up being like you felt like we didn't even have to say anything to one another. We just always knew where they were going to be,
That's cool.
and so there were times when we just did unreal things that you look back on now and you're like, hey, yeah, like flipping balls behind your back and bare hand and all this other stuff. And
Yeah.
our coaches allowed us to be like that
Yeah.
because we had practiced that a lot. I
Yeah.
think, somebody, maybe Matt Brewer, somebody put that out there is that we did all of that stuff in practice. So
Yeah.
it was certainly something. And there's a game where it's one of the coolest pictures that I probably own where we beat Wichita State, who was like one of the it teams during that era,
Yeah.
during the conference tournament. And I think we turned like 6 double plays during the game. And
Wow.
there's a picture of Greg and I, like, basically slapping fives after having turned a double play.
Yeah.
And the newspaper article, the caption to the picture is in big bold letters, and it just says "Rally Killers." And
Yeah.
it was one of those things where you're like, yeah, we've been doing this all year, but like
Mhm.
this is it was an opposing team giving us our due
Yeah.
for what we were doing. So
Now, I mean, the chemistry must have just been like you talked about, amazing between you two. Were
crazy.
you guys doing all your work within practice, or were you guys getting together and doing extra stuff together?
It was both. It was
Yeah.
both. Coach Cal and Hendu were amazing teachers of that of infield play. If you go
Yeah.
back and you look at those teams, like that was a hallmark or a staple of what they were doing. So we did a lot in practice with that,
Yeah.
but then added on to it, like we just love playing. Greg is the same way. So we would take ground balls after practice, and we would take ground balls prior
Hmm.
to practice, and work on some of that stuff, and kind of get a feel for like, hey, what are you thinking here, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And the fact that we played together all, my freshman year, his sophomore year, this was year two, we ended up doing it again year three. Like
Wow.
it was just fun. And
Yeah.
like I said, it got to the point where like there was no conversations about what was going on. Like we just knew where each other was going to be,
So cool.
uh, and did some fun things like hidden ball tricks and just get crazy things because we just, we played 100 something games together.
Yeah.
That's extremely rare in college.
That's so cool, man. And our dads know each other. They're both
Yeah.
really, really talented golfers, and they were always talking. Your dad was always bringing stuff back, and he would. So it's funny. Like I wasn't getting it directly from you, but your dad would come back and talk about they've changed the way PJ is attacking the ball or like trying to get through it or putting himself in a better position feet
Yeah.
wise. And they changed the way PJ is breaking in his glove, and so all these things were trickling down. So when
For
we
sure.
get a new PJ information nugget, me and Dad would go out to the field and like, all right, we're working on whatever Greg said about PJ. So we're trying
Yeah.
to figure this out. So like I was
Yeah.
trying to shake my glove how you were when I was hearing it and like all this stuff. So it's so
Yeah, it was
cool.
really, really interesting. Like you talk about what you learn when you go to school. Like I go to school, and one of the first things we're doing with Hendu is like we're doing routes to ground balls and like footwork and things like that. And I'm kind of like looking around because I was one of the only young infielders at the time. And all these other guys are just going through it, man, and they look like they have pristine footwork and everything else. And I'm like, I've never heard this, never heard these terms ever.
Yeah.
Like, I've just been like, hey, you go field the ground ball and you make the play. Like, that's it. And
Yeah.
so it was like extremely technical. And I remember
Yeah.
like first week of practice being like, this is like Spanish. Like, I don't understand this.
Yeah.
So then it just turned into, okay, I'm going to take as many ground balls as I absolutely can to get
Yeah.
this figured out. Like there's
Yeah.
no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And, it took a while, but now, it was then with the speed of the game and everything else, obviously very beneficial to having success as a freshman. And,
Yeah.
it was just one of those things that I look back now is like to think that I knew none of this when I first showed up is
Yeah.
kind of wild.
So cool. And
So.
everyone just raves about like you obviously drilled all these fundamentals, to your core, and everyone raves about your routes and all these things. This is, I mean, let's give the credit to Coach Cal and Hendu on a lot of this.
Yes. Yeah, Hendu's an amazing teacher of that stuff, and I think that anybody who's worked with him would say the same thing. Like he's very, very technical, and really is a high level teacher of infield play. And
Yeah.
I owe a lot of that success to him, and still use a lot of the things that we do or we did then now.
Yeah.
But it was as foreign can be when you first start, and
Yeah.
he's not always the easiest person to deal with. So there's some there's some growing pains with that. Uh,
I've got one
uh,
story here that I have to share, and I
yes,
try to keep
please do.
myself out of these podcasts as much
No,
as
please
possible. But
do.
my senior year, I think at Murray State, Carbondale came down. And I think we kind of gave it to him pretty good, and he gave one of the most legendary ass chewings to his team I've ever heard. It was like after the game, and it was like the whole stadium stopped. It was like our team stopped, our coach stopped talking to us, everyone in the stands stopped, and he was. And I say this is like I had a great conversation with him, and he's a fiery guy,
Yes.
loves baseball.
Yes. Oh
And
yes.
some coaches give ass chewings, and that's the way it is. But it was legendary.
That's him, man. But the guys that like played for him, like you found out like he cared
Yeah,
way more than you ever would have guessed. But like that was just his way of coaching, and
yeah,
you either adapted or died. And man, I've been on the receiving end of way too many of those, and then got a chance to work with him for 9 years. So
yeah,
he's awesome.
yeah. I had a great conversation with him. We'll get to some more parts of that here
Yes.
soon, man. So we're at a cool part here, and I'm pumped to talk about it.
Yeah.
This would be after your sophomore year. We get an invite to go to the Cape Cod League, the famous Cape Cod League that man, this is a very romantic part of baseball. This is like the elite prospect league for the summer. 1 in 4 big leaguers have been a part of the Cape Cod League. It's all, man, I don't want to take words out of your mouth. So I've got a lot of things to say and a lot of questions. I'm really excited to talk about the Cape Cod League.
Yeah.
I know it's just not another thing. So let's start on how you got invited there.
Yeah, so I got invited after my freshman year, and this is one of the things I love about Cal and Hendy so very much is like when we talk about like just being honest with someone, that I get invited after a really good year, and they're like, "Don't go." And I'm
Really?
like, "What? Like, why not?" And they're like, "You're not ready." I was like, "Okay, like I can appreciate these guys have always had my back." Like
Yeah.
another thing to trust, and they said we'll get you there the following year, promise.
Wow. Wow.
So, like, going into the fall, like, I had already had conversations with the head coach and the general manager, and I was in. Like,
Yeah.
had a contract, everything else, as an infielder.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it gets super interesting because I go out there as a full contract member. Now, you can have a temp, which is a 10-day contract. You can have a full. And I had a full, and I went out there, coming off a year in which I struggled.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure how that was going to go. And early on, when you're out there, like there's quite a few people that are still playing in the NCAA tournament, the
Yeah.
World Series, whatever else. So your full team doesn't get there until like mid June, but the games start in early June. And,
Yeah.
I go out there and I'll never forget this. Like I'm, practicing with all these guys. I mean, it's a literal who's who of college baseball. Like
Yeah.
I think everybody in the first year I was out there was drafted in the top 10 rounds. Like
Wow.
every single person, like it's first rounders, you name it. Like there's everything. And I get a start like in game one against Wareham, I think it was. And
Mhm.
it was, I think his name is Logan Sowers, who is a pitcher from Vanderbilt, who ends up being like the 7th overall pick.
Mhm.
And he's dominant. I get dominated. And then the next night we
Wait,
play them
as a pitcher or a shortstop?
as a shortstop.
Okay.
I'm out there, and just get dominated.
Yeah.
You're talking about low to mid 90s lefty, like really good stuff. Like
Mhm.
this was a lot. And then I didn't play the next day, and then we played like 2 days later, and I got to start against JP Howell, who pitched, you know, 10
Yeah.
years in the big leagues. Like,
Yeah.
so those are like, I think I have 12 or 13 career at bats in the Cape. Like, that's like 6 of them. Like, I have no chance against these guys. Um, but I ended up like playing a lot on defense. And then, the coach was like, "Hey, man, like, I just don't know that you're ready for this." But he's like, "I've heard a lot about your pitching. Like, I'd like to get you out there and see if this is a fit to keep you out here."
Yeah.
And I said, "Sure, man." Like, so like the first night I go out there and I throw like 3 innings, maybe like 1 hit, 1 run. And he's like very pleased. It's like, "Hey, let's do this again in a couple of days." And my role just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So I ended up mostly just pitching.
Yeah.
And it's kind of where I started to like hit my stride with all of the things on the mound was just out of that opportunity. So I
Yeah.
was like playing defense probably 3 days a week, like going in as a defensive replacement in the eighth and ninth inning,
Yeah.
pinch running for some guys, but then pitching a lot. I think I ended up like either first or second on our team in appearances. Like,
Mhm.
and other than the fact that I didn't get very many at bats, it was an awesome summer. Our team wasn't very good, in the standings,
Right.
but just the experience alone was just eye opening. Like
Oh gosh.
having
Yeah.
an opportunity to then play pro ball, like I would essentially say that it is as good as like high A baseball. Like
Wow.
it really
Yeah.
is that good.
Yeah.
And you get a true sense of like what you can and can't do being in those leagues. Like everyone is just so good and so consistent that you find out like when you make a mistake, like it gets punished.
Yeah.
I got a lot better just because of the level of competition.
Yeah.
So
So where do you? So I'm looking at your stats here. Strong.
yeah,
3.48, 31 innings. Yeah. 13 games, 19 Ks. Yeah. Strong. How are you seeing yourself as a player in this point? And this is a weird summer for you because you're probably thinking of yourself as a shortstop up until now. And now
100%.
is the line getting blurred?
100%.
Yeah.
It really isn't, because I know that I'm going back to school and
Sure.
I'm going to go back and play shortstop.
Right.
But it was just more of like, I've got a long way to go to get where I need to get to play
Yeah.
at this level
But you thought it
as
was possible?
a position player. Yes. I mean, I thought it was possible because it was essentially like the same problems I was having hitting wise during the school year, right? Like just getting destroyed by off speed stuff, like just getting just overmatched by it all.
Yeah.
And so I knew that I had a lot to work on, but I knew that all the rest of the parts of the game, the defense, obviously my arm,
We're there.
other things were there, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was had to work on a million things. It was my consistency with hitting
Yeah.
obviously had to come. And then the I guess it would be more of like a surprise, because it was like, hey, I went out there to the Cape, had all the success on the mound. Like, is it time to like grow my role on the mound?
Yeah.
And that's eventually what the conversations were with the coaching staff and some of the other things, is like, okay, maybe it is time to make this a bigger thing for you.
Right.
And that's ultimately what ended up happening as a junior. And then obviously we kind of got some things figured out senior year. So
Yeah. So I mean, you have to be thinking, or you have to be thinking about pro ball in some ways. If you're getting invited to the Cape,
yeah.
you're thinking that there's a shot. There's at least some opportunity there. Yeah.
Those
That's point.
conversations, yeah, are definitely happening. And more so, I would think, after the Cape stuff, just you're getting evaluated by everybody that there ever was,
Yeah.
out on the Cape. Like there's 20 pro scouts at every single game that you play.
Yeah.
Like it's that's why I say it's a who's who. And you're not talking about like the, bird dogs. You're talking about cross checkers. You're
Yeah.
talking
Big
about
ones. Yeah.
the big time decision makers, general managers, things like that,
Yeah.
where it's different, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, those are starting to come into play. Plus, you see your own teammates and everything else that are getting a chance to play pro ball. We
Yeah.
had quite a few drafted guys at that point in time, and I was trending on that same direction. So that's certainly in the back of your mind that I'd like to do that someday.
More
So,
pressure or less pressure than playing at Carbondale, playing in front of all
um,
those scouts and whatnot.
I don't think that there was as much, just because I know that like there's no decision was being made like right then and there, if that
Yeah.
makes
Oh,
sense.
great point. Yeah.
In the pressure aspect of it was more the in-game stuff. Like if you didn't bring it, man, it was going to get exposed in a hurry.
Yeah.
So I think it was just more about going out there and just being lost in the competition.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that there was a ton of pressure. Even as you got down, I think it just made for more fun with all the people that show up to those games.
Yeah. Now tell me about some of the fun things about the Cape, man. Like,
Yeah. So the coolest part, I think, is just the fact that it's the all the other things that go into it is there's no fanfare, right?
yeah.
So like you ride school buses. Like
Yeah.
that's mind-boggling to me. You
Right.
don't
Yeah.
stay overnight. You're
Right.
playing at high school fields. Like the
Yeah.
high school field that we played at is called Dennis Yarmouth High School.
Yep.
And like it's a very average field. The first couple of days of practice, before and after practice, we would walk around and pick up rocks in the infield. Like you have the best players in the country doing
Right.
things like that. Like it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
And so because of that, like you kind of lose sense of where you're at. And then
Yeah.
once the games start, like there's 1,000 people at every game. So if it'd be like if you went out to your local high school run of the mill field and you see
Yeah.
1,000 people there, you're like, what in the heck's going on?
Yeah.
Same kind of thing. And then there's just little cool things like you get meals after every game that
Yeah.
is from a local place, and then you get all the unavailable pitchers for the day go out and sell 50-50 tickets. So
Oh,
there was
really?
a millions times where you're just out there for like 3 innings, not even paying attention to the game because you're selling 50-50 raffle tickets. And
Yeah.
it's just so unique. And you go to these ballparks, and these ballparks are some of them are really iconic. You go to
Yeah.
Orleans, and Orleans has got this gigantic hill in right field, and all the people come. And because most of the games are at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, they have lights. One of the places that have lights, and all
Yeah.
the people come on like their lunch break, and they put their chair and they reserve their spots. When you show up for BP, there's 700 chairs just sitting there all empty.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's just cool. It's just very iconic.
Yeah.
And, it's just, it lives up to all the hype. It
Like
really does with all
most
the
of these
players.
most of these
And
places have lawn chairs on the side. That's people when they're right up next to the field, right?
yeah,
Like close.
absolutely, absolutely. And they'll put like the little, like, 3 and 4 tier bleachers
Yeah,
that you
that's
see
about
at
it.
like a high school
Yeah.
field, things like that. But a lot of them just bring their lawn chair and they line up all around the field. And
Yeah.
the next year I get to go back and we play in the playoffs, and it's like that on steroids. So it was just
Yeah.
crazy,
And
absolutely
and
crazy.
and teams are not far apart. Is that right? They're like 30 minutes apart, all the teams, essentially about.
Yes, yeah, and so the team I play for is directly in the middle.
Yeah.
So our commute to every game was like 30 minutes. Now you have to deal with some traffic because of coming in and out. There's only one main road.
Hmm.
But even if you were to go from like one side to the other, hour and hour and 15 minutes
Yeah.
is all that you have. So
What were
yeah.
so and you guys didn't have you guys played at the famous Red Wilson Field, Yarmouth Tennis, Red
Yes. Yep.
Sox. You
Yep.
guys played twilight games because you didn't have lights, right?
Yeah, no lights. Yep, no lights.
Man, that's
Yeah,
cool.
so we play at like 4 o'clock, and when I go out there, I've got to have a job. I can't afford to just sit on my butt and not do
Okay, yeah.
anything. Got to have a job, and they're required to give you one. That's one of the things in the league. And
What were you doing?
so
Yeah.
I got up at 5 a.m. every day, and I worked a can and bottle return at a liquor store, and then helped them stock shelves from
Yeah.
basically 5 to
Yeah.
noon every day. So I
That's
go home, take a
wow.
nap, go to get dressed, and go to the ballpark every single day, and then go work out after the games.
Pretty
So,
common for guys there to have jobs. Would you say most guys did?
yeah, I would say probably 75% of the guys did. A lot of them work camp. A lot of them just work little things like that. But yeah, I mean, you have to, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's not like I was going to just have it funded by mom and dad. Like, I needed to make ends meet, and
Yeah.
that's one of the things. An NCAA sponsored league like that, they have to find you a job if you need a job.
Oh, that's so cool. So I was reading about the Cape some.
Yeah.
I grew up just like thinking the Cape was so cool. Like my dad used to get us Baseball America,
Hmm.
the newspaper, and like I love reading about this kind of stuff. And
Yes.
there was something at the Red Wilson Field called a donut burger. Did you ever get one of
That
these
was
things?
that was after my time. So they've done
Okay.
some renovations, and
Okay.
they've done some more things just to upgrade the experience. But when I say it's your run of the mill high school field, like
That's
it,
what it
it, it
is.
really was. It
Man,
really was. Like no frills whatsoever. Crazy.
man. Okay, I've got a few questions.
Uh,
Would you say like the overall like kind of tone of the league? Are people trying to win, or are people more worried about performing for the scouts?
it's mix and match,
Yeah.
right? My first year out there, it was very much like felt like pro ball.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to get theirs, and it was a very like disconnected group. Year two, like a little bit of smaller school, like maybe under the radar type prospects. And man, did those guys want to win. And that was
Yeah.
so much fun, right? Obviously,
Okay.
because we do win, but
Yeah, you do.
it was just like it's mix and match, right? Like, and I can see where it's very difficult for some of those high profile guys because, like, if you win, it doesn't really matter for them, right?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
the rest of us that are trying to make a name for ourselves
Yeah.
that really tried to win, right? Like,
Right.
let's be honest about that. So,
Sure. And especially you. I mean, you're a Finnegan. Finnegans win. That's what you guys do. That's your whole thing. So yeah, I totally
yeah,
get that. Um,
yes.
you already kind of talked to us a little bit about it, but just take me through like what is a day in the life of Cape Cod baseball player? Like you said, you got up at 5 to go do your job.
Yeah, we got up at 5, go do my job. You know, come home at noon, grab something to eat. I lived in a house with 3 other guys on the team. Our host mom was a 74-year-old widow who
Okay.
is one of the most knowledgeable baseball people I've ever been around. She
Oh, that's
passed
cool.
away about 3 years ago. One of my favorite human beings, affectionately known as Mrs. E, has the host players for like 30 years prior
Oh,
to her
love that. I love that
passing.
kind of stuff. Yeah.
Was so much fun. Like Coach Cal stayed with her when he was a coach, and that's kind of
What?
how it all like lined up for me to stay with her. She would come visit Cal. obviously after I stayed with her, then she would come visit me and we'd go out to dinner because
Wow.
she would drive from Massachusetts to Arizona, which is where her daughter lived.
Okay.
So she would spend the winters in Arizona and then spend the summers in Cape Cod. But so obviously go back to our house, shower, change, go to the ballpark for BP, early work,
Hmm.
have your game, and then after the game's over with, typically go get something to eat, or go to the gym. That
Yeah.
was one of the things that I really enjoyed about being out there is you have a lot of people on the same mission as you. There's not a lot of
Yeah.
messing around. Guys took it very serious, so you go work out almost as a full team at like a 24-hour fitness type place,
Yeah.
and then you're done for the day. You go eat. I was fortunate enough both years that I was there. I roomed with a lot of guys that like to play cards and like we're into
Yeah.
some of the same things I was. And then Mrs. E facilitated a lot of that. So we would typically hang out,
Yeah.
and just talk baseball and life and things like
Yeah.
that, with guys from all different backgrounds. So
Is there much nightlife out there? Anything to do or?
there really isn't. And
Yeah.
that's what I say. There's a lot of people that are on the same mission as you. So
Right.
there's not a lot of that. A lot of the times when we would quote unquote hang out, you'd go to the beach or something like that and hang out.
Yeah.
Or our favorite things to do when I was living there was, the competition thing. We were always playing board games and having a couple beers late at night, and then our host mom would join in on that. And
Yeah.
those are some of my favorite times there. Right? Is
Yeah.
sitting up with your teammates and your host mom who's in her. There we go.
We got you back.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. I guess we had some sort of a difficulty. We're back. We're rolling again.
Yeah.
We were talking about Cape Cod stuff, kind of nightlife, just Cape Cod, all things in general.
Yes.
My question, I can't remember exactly where we stopped at. Do you remember where we were rolling?
Yeah, it's just like what are some of the things you guys did there? And
Yeah.
that's why I said that a lot of people just we just kind of hung out. There wasn't a whole lot, there's not a
Yeah.
lot to do there. It's more of a vacation places for family.
Yeah. Yeah.
A place that I'd love to take my kids now, but there's just not a lot going on there. And
Well off people, right? I mean, it's a pretty
yes, yeah,
affluent.
very nice.
Yeah.
The town that I was in was is kind of like middle class. A lot of people that stayed there all the time, and or maybe in the service industry, that kind of stuff. But you get out further on the sides, man. There's some really nice places up there.
Yeah. Were you
Yeah.
aware, kind of like while this is happening, like how just special this is, like being a part of this, famed league, and like you're on a trajectory now. That's pretty cool,
Well,
man.
some of it was hard to get away from because you just feel like you're playing with some of the guys that you've read about, like you
Yeah.
said, and like Baseball America, things like
Yeah.
that, or you've
Yeah.
seen, on the College World Series and just stuff like that. So it was hard to get away from it, the magnitude of what it was. So
Are you still taking reps like as like a shortstop, like before
yeah,
the
every
games and
day,
all this stuff, hitting and
every day.
yeah,
That was one thing that I said, hey, that's the only reason I'm going to stay is I'm still, you know,
right,
doing a
working.
lot hitting wise, still taking
Yeah.
ground balls, still doing all the stuff to help me prepare, but not getting the at bats.
Yeah.
So
How did that season end for you guys?
I think we finished in last place in our division and
Mhm.
got a chance to go home. And it was great. Like I said, I finished up great. Played for a legendary coach in Scott Pickler, and
Pickler,
then
yeah, in there
in
forever.
it, in it ended up, this is all-time Capes win leader and still
Yeah,
doing it, right?
he is. Yeah, I looked
And
him up.
then one of the assistant coaches, Chris Pedez, was a guy I still talk to all the time, who's one of like the most phenomenal human beings I've ever been around.
Yeah,
Was another big reason why I stayed up there is just the ability to work with him and be around him every day. I felt like I was just a better player in person because of that. So that's two
yeah,
guys that was obviously a big reason why I stayed, even though I wasn't able to do what I needed to be doing at that time.
yeah. But you
So
feel like this was an important piece, and you're kind of like stepping up the ladder in baseball, like really
for
measuring
sure,
yourself against the big dogs here.
for sure, and
Yeah,
you're like, hey, this is starting to go someplace, and I could see maybe where this is leading is a chance to play at the next
yeah.
level.
All right,
So,
we're gonna get to some funny stuff here now.
all
So,
right,
I I've been talking a lot with Aper and Alpsmeyer about this. We've been laughing about it, and I kind of texted you this morning about it just to get your temperature on it. But we are in agreement. We're going to talk about the movie Summer Catch.
yeah,
It is the Cape. Tell me, it's not like it. It's not like Summer
no,
Catch.
Not at all. Zero. The only thing is, like, obviously it portrays like scouts and like good players. That's about it.
Yeah.
We would always joke that one of the reasons why there isn't much going on out there is like I think we went like the entire summer without seeing a good looking girl. Like it was like you know,
There's no Jessica Biels out there?
no, no, not at all, and not even at the games or anything. So it wasn't like there was a lot going on there.
Yeah.
We all watched that, and even a lot of the settings that they have in the movie are not the actual places, right?
Yeah.
They're not the actual field. So for those that have been out there, know that there's not a lot there for that movie.
Yeah. And just, man,
Yeah,
just there's so many things that are offensive about that movie. If you're like truly a baseball
yeah,
lover, and I am, like, I love baseball. And I remember being so excited, like, oh man, there's a baseball movie about the Cape. I can't wait to see
yes,
this. But you know what?
yes,
It's really just like, I mean, it's Freddie Prinze. He doesn't do a good job throwing the ball, and I think part of the reason that like Bull Durham and Major League are good is because Kevin Costner looks believable swinging the
for
bat.
sure.
You know, like Charlie Sheen throws a pretty good baseball.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Freddie Prinze looked weak throwing, man,
He
weak.
did, and I think we all, anybody that's that ingrained in baseball, no matter if you have a girlfriend, wife, whatever, you're not walking away from that game. Sorry,
Yeah, what's he doing?
it's not happening.
What's he
There's no
doing?
way, no how, no way, no how.
They already know the deal if they're your girlfriend or your significant other.
100%. And if they're not willing to allow you to do that, that's probably not the right person, right? Let's
Right.
be
So,
honest. Yeah.
Summer Catch was a romantic movie that had baseball in it.
Yes.
Bull Durham and Major League are baseball movies that have elements of romance to some degree, but highly let down. I think we were joking that this was the end of Freddie Prince's career. He was doing Scooby Doo after that, and then you never heard from him
Yes.
again.
Yes. Yes. Not at all portrays what the Cape was about at all. So
Right. So we do have some more cool Cape experiences coming back, but that's going
yeah.
to be after your next year of school.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and go there to your junior year here. Strong year or stronger. So 265, 3 home runs, 13 doubles, 29 innings pitched. So pitching a little more,
Yeah.
5.53. Can you just take us back through this junior year and kind of what do you remember? What stands out? What would you like to talk about?
Well, there's a lot that happens during this year. This is a team that came off playing for a conference championship,
Okay.
lost the year before to Wichita State in the Valley tournament.
Yeah.
Comes back with some huge expectations because we return a lot of the pitching and a big part of the offense.
Okay.
And this team starts out 0-12.
Oh, yikes.
Like just we were playing really good teams. Go to Florida Atlantic, get swept. Go to Vanderbilt, get swept. Come back home and play atrocious against NIU, get swept. And then we went to the Notre Dame Classic down in San Antonio and like lose a heartbreaker to lose a heartbreaker to Notre Dame, who's like ranked 10th in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Losing heartbreaker the next day on a play that I've never ever seen, which was we're in the bottom of the ninth in a 1-run game, bases loaded, 1 out, and our first baseman hits an absolute rocket right to the first baseman.
Mm-hmm.
And he catches the ball and steps on the bat. Game over. That was our 11th loss, and like it just kept adding up. And then we finally win a game, and then the rallying cry was like, "Hey, we're going to get back to 500. Like we
Yeah.
are going to get back to 500." And we
Uh-huh.
ended up 3 games short of that, but we played in the conference championship again, and a big
Wow.
If you were to go back and look at this, and I'd be the first one to admit, a big reason why we started out on 12 was me. Like I was
Really?
awful during that stretch.
Really?
Awful. I was, I think it was like maybe the 8th or ninth game before I actually got my first hit. I blew like 2 or 3 saves during that time. I mean, it was a big reason as to why.
Yeah.
And just got off to a really, really slow start. But then on the reverse of that was the lightning bolt moment that I was talking about from the year before, where it's like I made a small little change in my basically what I was doing hitting wise, and for the rest of my career ended up, hitting over 400 from
Oh,
that point.
what was that change? Let's
It
go.
was just a simple thing, like Ken Henderson's a very like quiet, like approach type of person, and I was not that way. I was, there was a lot of movement in my
Moving
swing and
parts.
everything else,
Yeah.
and he was just like, "Hey, man, you'll hit a ton if you just like basically stride earlier and get to a set position earlier."
Okay.
And so I started doing that, and then it was, like I said, a lightning bolt moment. Like it was just crazy. I stopped striking out. My power went through the roof. Like
Really?
all of it. Like, so all of the offensive success from that year came from about the midway point on. I
What
mean,
did that do for you though? Did it just make you feel like you had
it
more
just
time, or what?
100%. It
Yeah.
just allowed me to have more time. I thought my pitch recognition was much better.
Yeah.
I was swinging at better pitches, and I was able to just like stay in an approach, right? Like
Hmm.
if you know what you're seeing and you know what you know what you're trying to hit,
Yeah.
the quieter you are, the easier it is for you to see that and then make better swing decisions. And
Okay.
that's what ended up happening. And it was crazy because obviously we then start to put some things together and
Yeah.
we started winning games to go along with that. So
Yeah. Cool. So
yes.
were you like a leg kick guy before this? A lot of movement, or what was going on?
Not really like that, but like uh, because of going back to just being little when I was
Yeah.
younger,
Yeah.
that you've probably seen those Bryce Harper or like Frank Thomas type swings where like they're lifting their leg off the ground
Yeah.
and they almost go to get the ball. Like I did that,
Yeah.
and because of that, I was always on the move, right? I was
Yeah.
never like a truly set, and that was one of his big things for me. It was like you just got to get set and give your eyes a chance.
Yeah.
Like you've got everything else, and then once I started doing that, it was a true, lightning rod moment, and things just went, through the roof at that point in
Swing
time.
changes can take time sometimes to take. Did it feel like you had it instantly, or this took a little bit?
It was just like it was over the course of about a week of him
Yeah.
just like, okay, this is when you're going to start. This is
Yeah.
when you're going to get your foot down. This is what, and it was easy because I really wasn't changing a whole lot. I was really just changing like the timing
Timing. Yeah.
mechanic of it all,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
just being
That's cool.
calm with it. And like I said, once that happened and it started to kind of, snowball in a good way. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I can see the ball. I'm not striking out. I'm hitting all these breaking pitches now, and I'm
Yeah.
leaving the pitches that I can't hit. And then it
Yeah.
was like, oh, okay. And then confidence comes along with that. And
Yeah.
like I said, it just snowballed.
Right.
So
That 265 is kind of a misleading number, because it kind of sounds like you were not
no,
doing really
it was
struggling for
really
the
bad.
first part, and then really cranked it on. So that
For sure.
if you
For
hit
sure. It was
zero, you had to hit 500 to get to 260 essentially.
exactly. I mean, it
Yeah.
was probably sub 100 for the first 15 games of the year. I mean, it
Yeah.
was not good at all. And to end up where I did was just what the second half brought.
Yeah.
So,
Now, are you talking to any pro scouts yet at this point? What's the deal
yeah,
there?
and this was probably the first time as well that like maybe some of that stuff started to creep into the way I was playing.
Yeah.
Just because that fall, because of the Cape and because I had gotten bigger and stronger and faster and throwing harder, that like the attention was really starting to come.
Yeah.
And then we had kind of solidified what my role was going to be on the mound. I was going to close.
Okay.
And so I just felt like, coming into that time that I was trying to do way too much.
Okay.
And, you know, about the midway point, I started to just take all the pressure out of it because it was like, okay, like I'm doing so poorly that this is probably not going to happen. So like, let's just get back to enjoying the game and like competing, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's something to be said for that because
Yeah.
that's really what it was like.
Yeah.
Because even on the mound, I wasn't doing very good. I was trying so hard that it
Yeah.
wasn't going to matter what I was doing. And like I said, I got back to enjoying it, got back to just the competition thing. And that
Yeah.
ended up being something that stuck with me for as long as I would end up playing the game, is that
Yeah.
I learned quite a bit from that time.
Was there any
So,
work being done, like mental skills type work? It was kind of early. I mean, this was early 2000s, so it's a huge part of the game now, where every organization has a mental skills coach and all these things, and sports psychology. Is that something at all that was on your radar? Okay,
all
yeah.
good.
Sorry guys out there. PJ is an important man. He keeps getting calls and we keep getting booted off. I think we've fixed it now, so we're rolling, man. It's the
Let's
life of
hope.
a head coach.
Let's hope. Let's hope.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I think where we left was I had asked you about was there anything, were you guys doing mental skills work, or was that coming into play at all? It was kind of early 2000s, so maybe before that. Anything on that?
Yeah, there really wasn't anything like that.
Yeah.
It was just maybe sitting down and having some conversations with your coaches about what was going on. But as far as mental skills, none of that. I was pretty fortunate at that point in time to have really good relationships with my coaches and had spent some time with them. But I never thought it was like a real mental thing, other than just trying so hard,
Yeah.
and especially at that point in time, try really hard because you're trying to get drafted, right? Like
Yeah,
there was
for
starting
sure.
to be some hype and
Yeah.
some other things, and then it was just kind of like throwing all that to the wind. Like, hey, let's just get back to playing ball and just enjoying it.
Competing. Yeah.
So, yeah,
You talked about in the first podcast, just getting, like, you weren't a guy that got a ton of anxiety or pressure. You just got
never.
lost in the competition. That was your thing.
100%. And
That's
then
beautiful,
I
man. I
kind
love
of
how you said
joke
that.
now because it's like, maybe I was too stupid to know that I should have been nervous or scared or anything like that, but I was just like, so ingrained with what was going on in the game, and like
Yeah.
I said, it's something that I can still do to this day, where it's like, yeah, I don't worry about, like, I hear kids say that all the time, like, what if this happens, or
Yeah.
oh, I'm nervous. Like, yeah, but like get lost in the competition, right? Get
Love that.
lost in the nuts and bolts of what's going on, and
Oh man, that's
you
good.
won't have to worry about all that other stuff.
Is, is
So
is is that in you, or is that from mom and dad?
I think it's both. My parents never really talked about things like that, right?
Yeah.
Like there were no other options. Like just go do it.
Yeah.
So maybe that is, and I think, like I said, maybe it is like being too stupid to figure out what
Yeah.
that's going to be. It's funny. I have like the start to a book that I'd like to someday write, and I truly believe as a pitcher, to be successful at any level, that you have to be one of two people, and I call it A and B. And A is like the person that's just like so arrogant and confident that, like, if someone gets a hit or they don't have success, it's almost viewed as luck, right?
Yeah.
Like that their confidence is unwavering.
Yeah.
Or you have to find a way to be B, which is what I would consider myself as, like too stupid to know what was going on to be scared. Like so ingrained with everything that was going to happen that it didn't, because I was confident, but I wasn't like overly confident. Like,
Yeah.
and I never viewed things as that. I was just so caught up in everything that was going on
Yeah.
that I didn't really think about it. So I think you have to be an A or a B, and
Yeah.
like you can't be like one or the other, or you can't be like a mix of both. Like you have to gravitate toward one
Oh,
of those
I like
two
that.
people. And I'm a firm believer, and still, teach my guys those same values. Like,
I love
which
that.
one of these can you be? Let's go be one of those instead of anything else that you're thinking
And,
about.
and, and it's okay to be either one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
gotta be one.
Yeah, but you
Yeah.
got to be one. You got to fully commit to that, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're going to be, and we talk about ways to be those two guys, right?
Yeah.
To be one of those two guys. And I'm a firm believer. I'm 100% a B. Like there's no way, like, was I ever that confident that I was like, oh yeah, this guy got a hit because it was
Right.
luck. No, I wasn't
Yeah.
like that. I was just, hey, we're going to go play.
I
And then at
love
the
it.
end of it, I hope that we're winning.
Yeah.
So,
Man, I just while we were having some technical difficulties, I got some texts from Kim Worth. So
okay.
the mother of Jason Worth, my nickname for her is Kimbo. I
Yeah.
love her, man. She's a good friend of mine, and she was raving about part one. She's thrilled about it. She thought it
That's
was
funny.
amazing. Yeah,
That's
she
funny.
gives me a ton of feedback on all these. We talk
That's
all the
cool.
time. Yep.
Very
So
cool. Very
you
cool.
you got the thumbs up from our number one fan, Kim Worth. So yep,
Yeah.
that's not bad. All right, man.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So I love all your takes on your junior year here, man. And now we're getting to the summer, and this is interesting and like really fun, and I can't wait to get to it. So we start off. We don't go back to the Cape.
Do not. And had the opportunity to,
Really?
and didn't go just because, like, I knew I wasn't going to get the at bats I needed, and I was
Yeah.
coming off a year in which I'd struggled and
Yeah.
really started to get it going. And I was like, hey, let's just hit the reset. Let's go somewhere where I can do both,
Yeah.
and like really try to get the most out of the summer. And so I decided to go back and play for the Rifles, and
Yeah.
it was good. I got out of it what I needed to, other than the fact that, like, it was chaotic, right? Like we were playing at Lanfair Park for the first time,
Yeah.
Eric Weaver's first time coaching,
Yep.
just a team in transition. We weren't very good.
Yeah.
But it was fun. Like, got to play with a bunch of really good guys.
Who were some of those
and had
guys?
a blast.
Who were some of those
Yeah,
guys?
Brad Sellinger, who's somebody that I grew up with and is
Yeah.
very near and dear to me.
Big arm. Big arm.
Big arm, pitch at Washington State,
Yeah.
was our guy. Travis Scott, Walter Patton,
Yep.
Joey Alsmeyer, Ryan Kendrick, Adam Tallman. We had guys from all over the place, and it was a fun group. We had a good time with what we were doing, even though we were not good at all. So,
but you were getting your reps as a shortstop.
Absolutely.
How were they pitching you?
I was really being used as a closer, which is
Yeah.
fine by me. Like, I was able to go and basically take care of my arm the way I needed to. I spent some time during the spring trying to start, and it didn't go very well. I would get in the middle, fourth, fifth, sixth inning, and I would run out of gas. So
Yeah.
I just wasn't physical enough and ready to do both in that manner.
Yeah.
So I was just being used as a closer, and it was good. Other than the fact that we just didn't have very many opportunities. I think we probably won less than 10 games that entire summer.
Yeah, and those are long road trips and hot games, and yeah, when you're not winning, they can be tough. Yep.
Tough. So.
And I think Larry Squires took over the Rifles around that time.
He bought it, and that's what I said. He hired Weave, and we had a blast, man. That was my first ever chance to cross paths with Eric Weaver, and I love that. And
he's great.
There's always you formed those strong bonds in some of those days of agony, and man, we really did that, and he made it fun.
Oh yeah,
was a really fun group to be around, even though, like I said, we were not good. Not good at all.
We've I got to play for the Rifles the following year, and Weave was still there. And I don't know, man. I'd like to give you a run for the worst Rifles team ever. So I think we should have played each other and seen who was worse. But we had a rough summer too. But awesome. I loved playing for Weaver. He's got he was in the big leagues, had a ton of experience, stories, great guy. But just fun. Yeah,
absolutely took care of us. He, like I said, it was his first year doing it, and he. The agony is, when you went through it, like he understood it, right? There was some serious empathy there, and he was awesome.
I remember like, was it Squires was trying to sell like beer out of like his cooler at Lanphier and things like
100%. And we had dollar beer nights on Fridays, and Brad Sellinger started every Friday because Brad's family and my family would come out and bring everybody on the north end. So Brad never pitched on the road, I think, all year. Like, he pitched every Friday, dollar beer night. And it was great because we knew we had a chance to win then too, right? Because he was a dude. And, man, he and I, like I said, we played together like as little kids. So like getting to relive that again was awesome. We hadn't played together. He had some cameos on The Statesman, but like there were some things there where it's just like, hey, this is fun. Although, like I said, it wasn't great.
Yeah, he had a nice arm, right? He had some. What was he running it up to velo wise? Was he like
he was 88, 92, touching some fours, and like I said, he was really good, man. Just had trouble staying healthy.
Yeah.
But a bulldog too, man. Like one of my favorite people to ever be around, and we still talk to this day all the time. He's tremendous.
Legendary arm. He went out. I think he started. Did he start playing football at Lindenwood?
He did, and then left. Went back to SCI,
and then Washington State.
And from SCI, went to Washington State, and the whole time I tried to get him to come to Carbondale with me. Like I said, we were very close, and getting him back would have been awesome. But I know he went out there and had a good career. So
I remember watching him play football in high school, and man, he could spin that ball, an absolute cannon.
He could.
Yeah, but 6 foot maybe. Is he 6 foot?
Yeah, he's probably 6 foot, 200, 210. But just a phenomenal human being. He and I, we were always being close, but we really enjoyed that summer. And actually, if it's something you want to get into, we have a hilarious story from that summer that is a lot of people have heard because, one, it's relevant to the time, but it also just encompasses the way that summer went for us.
This is story time, PJ. Let's go.
Yes. So it was the last game before, or it was the last weekend before the All-Star break. The All-Star break starts on Monday. We were playing at Danville on Saturday night. Record crowd, and we just get thumped. Absolutely thumped. And like I said, we had been getting thumped. It wasn't like it was a new thing. And we had like 4 o'clock game on a Sunday that they were going to do fireworks or something for the July 4th game. It was right around that time was the All-Star break. And we've had, like I said, had the empathy, right? We stopped at a gas station before leaving Danville and he got a couple of cases of beer and said, hey, like, I don't want these, still full when we get back to Springfield, right? And that's how bad it had gotten, right? So me and Brad and a couple others, Travis Scott had ended up being a part of this, another Lincoln Land guy, and we're on our way back home riding in Squire's RV, and we come up with this plan like, hey, I don't really want to play tomorrow.
Oh,
you don't really want to play tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it had rained quite a bit in Springfield, but it wasn't going to be enough to rain us out. So we took one of those cases of beer when we got back to Springfield, and Brad, Travis, and I went and used the fire hose, Bull Durham style, on the field.
That's amazing.
And I got home at like 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning from doing this. And my mom's like, what is the deal? And I was like, hey, like we got in late from the game, but Brad and I are going to Chicago tomorrow. And she's like, you got a game. Like, what are you talking about? Like, we're not playing. Just put it that way. We're not playing. She's like, okay, didn't think anything of it. So Brad and I were going to go to Chicago because both of our girlfriends lived in Chicago. We were going to spend the All-Star break up there.
Yeah.
So Brad and I jump in the car the next morning at like 10 a.m. and at like, it was earlier than that because we got a call from Weave at like 11 saying, hey man, we got a lot more rain than what we had thought. The game's canceled. Like, we'll see you guys after the All-Star break. And we're like, yep, sounds good, man. I mean, we were like pulling into Chicago at the time. Like we knew, and had there been a game, like had they got the field ready, we were not going to be able to make it back. They were going to have to play without us.
That is incredible. Man.
Yeah, so we pulled the Bull Durham at Lanfair Park so that we didn't have to play.
Yeah, for those who don't know, there's an iconic scene in Bull Durham where they basically like are kind of like in the same situation you guys were in, kind of exasperated, needed a day off, so they let the sprinklers loose on the field and kind of just whooped it up a little bit so they couldn't play the next day. The field was rained out essentially.
Yes.
Man, that's amazing. I love to hear that. I can't wait to ask T. Scott about that. I'm still buddies with T. Scott.
Yes, you'll have to ask him. We sat in like those little white lawn chairs. We got the fire hose out from underneath the stadium and we plugged it in and we sat in our lawn chairs just talking about life and just letting it have it. So.
What a baseball moment, man. That's cool.
Yes.
That's one of the cool stories along the way. Man.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, man. So you didn't make it that whole season with the Rifles.
I didn't. Got a phone call, and I actually had an internship during the summer working at the power plant.
Okay. That's where your dad used to work and Mikey works.
Yep. And got a call saying from Coach Pick out in the Cape, like, hey, man, like, I got a bunch of Georgia Tech guys on our team that are going to be leaving. They got to go back to school. I very much would like for you to come and do what you did last year. Yep. Can't promise any at-bats, but you're going to help us on the mound. And he said, we're in first place. We got a good team. Probably going to make the playoffs. You're exactly what we need. And I was like, okay, well, if you can fly me out there, like, sounds good. And he's like, well, you'll have a ticket tomorrow morning. Nice. So I was like, perfect. So like that night he called me, had the ticket, we're good to go. And I literally the very next day I flew out, showed up like in the first inning of our game because it was a day game. Got a pinch hit at the end of the game and I didn't get a hit, but I got an at bat and was there for like the last 12 to 15 games and then the playoffs.
Yeah. So. Now, was it difficult to? I mean, did you have to ask Weave and Larry just to let you out of your Rifles contract?
Yeah, I did.
Was it a big deal,
and it was like a 30-second call with Weave. Like, Weave, hey man, like I've got a chance to go back into the Cape, and he's like, go, please. Yeah. And especially because, like I said, we weren't good. Right. He got it and understood it. So and it was a unique opportunity because they were in first place. There was going to be some other things going.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And keep going, man. Yeah, and then take us there because I read all about this and I'm excited. This is like, there's an article that says this is when you get to the end here, like the greatest game in Cape Cod League history, and just keep going, man.
Yeah, it was such a cool experience. Totally different group of guys. There's only like 2 or 3 guys from the year before, and then the funny part about it is like day 1 I'm there, day 2 we go on the road, and one of our guys gets hurt during pregame, and so Pick looks at me and he goes, hey, you're going to play third today. And I'm like, what? Like, dude, I've never played third base ever, like not even an inning. And he's like, you figure it out.
Figure it
He's
out.
like, you can
You're
play
a shortstop.
defense.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, like seriously, I've never played there. And fast forward, of course, the ball always finds you. The leadoff batter of the game is Jacoby Ellsbury, a
Oh
longtime
man.
big leaguer.
Yeah.
He hits the ball off the end of the bat. I come charging in and I pick it up, and he's already past first base. Like I had the slowest reaction ever. And I think I got like 3 plays in the first inning, and I handled my own and everything else. But it was just funny, like how things like that you remember and it works
Yeah.
out. But yeah, ended up essentially having the same role, pitching a ton, playing some
Yeah.
games on defense, going in late in the game, and then we make it to the playoffs. And you know, I can't remember if it's one series or two series, but we obviously make it to the championship series, and I got a win in the semifinals. It was a cool experience, and then to get to the finals, and there's 5,000 people plus at those games, and
Wow.
it's just like it looks like a movie. It
Yeah.
was so incredibly cool, and then to play in a championship game that like it just seemed like it was surreal in that there was so many good plays that happened during the game
Yeah.
that you could just go back and think about, and just like an iconic pitching matchup. And then it goes to extra innings, and then legitimately like all hell breaks loose in the last inning, and I'm included in that. Like
Yeah.
it's just it was just one of those things that like you don't ever forget, because it was just such, it was like a heavyweight bout,
Yeah.
the whole entire game. And then, like I said, the ending was surreal. So,
Well, first of all, you had 2.08 ERA there in 8 innings, so dealing when you got there.
yeah.
Take us through this game, and can you give us a little more of this last inning? Like you said, you were a part of it. It was an 11 inning battle against Falmouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was at Falmouth. Like I said, like there were so many iconic plays. There's a million defensive plays. I just remember their pitcher being Jensen Lewis, who we had faced earlier
Mm-hmm.
in the year with Carbondale. And he was really good. Like it was one of those things like you better lock in, because this is not gonna be an easy game.
Yeah.
We get to extras, and I hadn't pitched in a couple of days because I pitched quite a bit in the semis, and I was getting loose in the bullpen, and the bullpen is located right next to the dugout. Like it's on the dugout, and the
Yeah.
coach from the third base box is maybe 15 feet from the bullpen mound, and I was getting loose, and I was going to pitch the bottom of the 11th. So I was,
Wow.
probably 20 pitches in, and the coach looks at me and he goes, "Hey, are you loose?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Grab a bat. You're going to hit." And I'm like, "What?" Like I haven't had an at bat in 10 days, probably, right? Mind you, I've never had a hit one time in 2 years playing for this guy. I'm 0 for my life in the kid. And then there's a guy at first base, nobody out. So, rush up there, get my stuff, whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, like, well, I'm bunting, right? He pulls me down to the third base box. And he's like, "I want you to pull back. We're going to steal on the first pitch."
Yeah.
Tie game in the 11th. So we do that. And the guy steals second. And I'm like, sweet, maybe I won't have to bunt.
Yeah.
So then he calls me back and he says, "Bunt, sack. If you don't get it and you get the 2 strikes, you can hit. But like, let's get the bunt down." And I lay down a really good bunt, and it rolls foul. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, great. Like, this is just what I didn't need to do, right? Put together a decent at bat, but then hit like a legitimate, like, 17 hopper so softly into the 6 hole that ends up being a hit. It's the only hit that I have up there. Um, so it was hit so softly that the guy from second didn't even move up. Like that's like it's not
That's
not
great.
it was not anything special. But then what it ends up setting up is the next guy sack bunts, and the surreal moment then happens is it's second and third, and I'm on second base, and this is in the old days where you had to throw the pitches for an intentional walk, right?
Yeah.
Um, in the first pitch of the intentional walk, the guy sails it off the backstop,
Yeah.
and that's how we score the winning run. But
Oh
then
wow.
the very next pitch, they're like, "Oh man, we're not going to walk this guy." The very next pitch after the intentional walk, one of my roommates hits a 2-run home run. So then, like, it goes from like just there's been this iconic back and forth, and then the game ends on another one of my roommates making a diving catch with like the tying run on base and like all hell breaking loose. Like there was just so many things that end up happening, and it's such a cool experience, right? You win it all, you dogpile, you do all that stuff,
Yeah.
and then you go back to like the no fanfare. Is that we win, it's over. We're on the road. We got about a 30-minute drive home, and we step onto the bus, and it's a school bus. It's a yellow school bus, like
Yeah.
exactly what you see on everything. And there's champagne and there's beer and there's cigars and everything you can think of,
Yeah.
like a championship, like,
Yeah.
locker room party. And here we are, we're driving home, like spraying champagne and beer on each other and like
Man.
celebrating. And it's like, it was a very cool moment, and then turns into, we go back and they have a parade for us, and they have like a little meeting at a sports bar. But at like 2 in the morning, everyone's going their separate ways because like we've got to get back to school.
Yeah.
Like this is August 5th or
Oh
6th or
yeah.
7th. Like it's,
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
pretty far down. It's actually later than that. Because for me, I wanted to get back home because my sister was pregnant and my niece was born like the next day. So like I fly home right after that, and then my niece is born. So
Yeah.
it was just an unbelievable
Man.
experience, obviously, to be a part of that. Like you said, one of the greatest games that
Yeah.
we've ever seen for a championship out there, and to play a role in it and
Man.
everything else.
Did,
So,
did you get to keep anything from the Cape? Like you still have a hat or shirt or anything like that, jersey
I've
or?
got some shirts, I've got a hat, I've
Yeah.
got some bats that they gave to us,
Yeah.
and then from that, I got a championship ring, right?
Oh,
So I
cool.
have a
Yeah.
championship ring
Man.
that's just another thing that I can put in my office and as a conversation starter.
Sure.
So
Are there any names that you can think of that you played against there besides, you mentioned Jacoby Ellsbury there?
man, there's so many to name. Like it's
The
crazy,
Impossible. Yeah.
crazy. Like
Yeah.
just for my own team. One the game that I got a win in the playoffs, I relieved Brandon Morrow.
Mhm.
Who pitched in the big leagues for 10 years. But if you just go back and look at those rosters from that time, I mean, there's people from every that are all over every major league team. So
Yeah.
there's way too many to even try to
Yeah.
name them all. So
What a cool experience, man. Just
yes,
to be a part of that, to be a champion in the Cape, to be the man. You've lived such a cool baseball life, my man.
yes,
Man,
yes, I have.
so
Very
cool.
fortunate for that. So
Okay, so probably riding pretty high off of that, where you don't have a lot of time. And this is your senior year, man. This is
yes,
make or break. Like, what's it going to be? This is all the chips are in. So senior year, man. Let's go. Let's talk about it.
for sure. I actually had to make a couple interesting decisions during that time. Was I got a couple free agent offers
That's right.
during
Yes, your
that
dad
during
talked
that
about that.
summer,
Yeah,
and it was like, it wasn't for a ton of money. Like I think the most we ever got it to was like maybe 40 or 50,000. The Red Sox, the
yeah.
Twins, there's a couple other people,
And they were basically
and
saying, what would it take for you to not go back for your senior
for
year?
sure, for
Yeah,
sure. And so with the stuff on the Cape and whatever else, so it was like, hey, I'm going back to school. I want to finish my degree. I want to do some other things,
Mhm.
and I just felt there was one of the big things that I felt like I never accomplished, and it's still to this day is the thing that haunts me, is we were one game away as a sophomore and as a junior from going to the NCAA tournament.
Okay.
And Carbondale hadn't been there and still hasn't been there since 1990. So
Yeah.
something that still, like I said, walks with me is because I very much wanted to get to the NCAA tournament. I wanted
Yeah.
to be able to do that for the program and Cal and Hendu and
Yeah.
everybody.
For sure.
And so going back, I knew that we had some pieces and that we had a chance to be able to do
Man.
that. And it was really a good call, obviously, but it was the first time that maybe I got really, really serious about, okay, I'm going to pitch a lot more.
Yeah.
What do I need to do? How do we make this happen? And it was like a 4-year run of like, how do you balance being both things, right? Pitching
Yeah.
and shortstop. And it was the first time that I think, sitting and getting everybody in the room, I had put on like 20 to 25 pounds by the time the season had started. Like I really prepared my body for the long haul.
Yeah.
And obviously it really paid off, and the coaches were unbelievable in allowing me to have some say in it all. So like I pitched on Saturdays because typically the day after my arm felt fine. It
Yeah.
was the two-day soreness.
Yeah.
They allowed me to like sit out a lot of things in practice with like, taking ground balls where you had to make throws and really just kind of setting my own plan as far as what I
Yeah.
was going to do on a day-to-day thing in practice. And because of that, when we got to the spring, it really paid off.
Your
So,
your your dad talked about a conversation you guys had, I think, in between the Cape and your senior year, and he basically said that you came to him and you were like, "Dad, I'm gonna do everything I can possibly do to keep playing. Like I want to,
yeah,
I want to keep playing. I'm gonna be as all in as anyone can be, all in." And it obviously worked out for you. You absolutely exploded your senior year.
yeah.
Is that accurate?
It 100%. Like I said, I put on like 20 pounds from that time in the Cape until the season
Well,
started, and
so what are you weighing at this point?
probably about 190,
Okay.
which is for me was crazy because I was probably 175 going into the year before. But trying to play
Yeah.
shortstop and pitch, like
Yeah.
it wore me down,
Sure.
and that was a big thing. Like I'm going to make sure that I'm ready physically,
Yeah.
and we actually got helped out by this. Was the Missouri Valley at that point in time switched from a 4-game weekend to a 3-game weekend, and
Okay.
that was big for me
Yeah.
because what I was trying to do was play shortstop once Friday, 2 games Saturday, and then start on Sunday, and
Yeah.
that just didn't work.
Yeah.
So that's why I said that those conversations with the coaching staff were critical. And then obviously I pitched on
Yeah.
Saturdays, had Sundays to play shortstop, and then had a Monday to recoup. And it just worked out great.
Yeah, but both
Um,
your dad, Hendo, and Rupert all talked about your like 2-day arm thing where
yes,
you would
yeah,
pitch and then basically the next day you'd be okay. And then the
totally
following day
fine.
is when you would be in a lot of pain and sore and stiff.
Yeah,
But
be
that'd be
really
your day
sore.
off,
Yeah,
right?
be a day
Mondays.
off and be a day that I could get in the gym. I can get with that athletic trainer. Would do
Yeah.
that. Would go out and play on Tuesdays in our midweek game as the shortstop, but
Yeah.
would not do infield outfield and would really like take it easy on my arm other than
Yeah.
during the game. And then because of that, by the time Wednesday, Thursday came around, I was feeling much better, and it was go time again on Saturday. So
That must have been so interesting managing that because you always hear about,
for
or
sure,
sometimes you hear about two-way guys in college, but it's like it's a right fielder that comes in and closes. It's not a shortstop making 20 throws a game or whatever.
yeah,
There's a lot of throwing involved and a lot of
yes,
practice involved and trying to manage,
yes.
save your arm. You have to get reps. You have to be sharp. That must have been such a fine line to walk.
It was, and like I said, the coaches did a great job, and it was,
Just
it took
listening to you. Yeah.
3 years to really like, hey, this is how it's going to be. This is what we're going to do. I think
Yeah.
this will work the best, and we got the most out of it because of that.
Yeah. So I'm going to rattle off some stats and then I want to go through some clips here. But batted 388, 6 homers. So, man, power's jumping up. 3 triples, 13 doubles, 105 innings pitched, 3.24 ERA, 107 Ks. You were the Joe Carter MVC Player of the Year. You were first team as a shortstop and as a pitcher. Never been done before. Highly doubt that'll ever be done again. Yeah, what a magical year. I want to get to some clips here. So are you ready for some clips, buddy?
Let's hear it.
All right, I'm going to go in order. It's going to be Rupert, Jim Rupert, Matt Brewer, and then J.R. Kies.
Dan Callahan told me, he said, I can see PJ Finigan coming out of the bullpen in Yankee Stadium to pitch for the Tigers. I think he has the potential to be a big league baseball player, to be a pitcher in the major leagues.
Okay, now we got Brewer on senior year.
One of the things that I wanted to say about his senior year was, in context of how baseball is going on right now, I mean, for that last year, his senior year, he was Shohei Ohtani.
He was. He really was. Thank you for getting
that. He did everything on the offensive side. He did everything on the defensive side, and he was, had an amazing year in the starting pitcher. And I was thinking a lot about impressive.
Yeah, and obviously Brewer would have a unique perspective on that because the following year he also played the field and pitched and got a chance as well. All right, here's J.R. Kies. Last one, J.R. Kies.
I think it's next to impossible. Look, hey, Missouri Valley is not a conference to shake a stick at. The Big Ten's not like SEC. I mean, so I was happy enough to be second team All Big Ten in just one position. So I think it's even more rare to be able to be a pitcher and a position player and a hitter. I mean, you see with Ohani right now. I mean, nobody does that anymore. And if you can do that, it just elevates you to just a whole different level.
So some cool words from those guys. Man, what is this? Such a jump. What is it? I mean, you've got to just feel great. Just jumping from 265 your junior year, kind of being like, man, kind of scuffling a little bit to like, exploding offensively as a pitcher. Everything is just rolling here. Let's just keep talking about this senior year, man.
Yeah, it was, like I said, the carryover from the offensive side was from the year before, right?
Yeah,
that lightning rod moment, like, yeah, it 100%. It was a game changer for me, and because of that, I had all the confidence in the world coming back the next year, and I actually got off to a good start. The pitching side of it was a little bit more interesting because it was the first time I was actually gonna start.
Yeah.
And it was from the get-go and everything else. And I didn't really go that great the first couple outings. Like, if you go back and you look at that and you're like, oh, man, like, we started out at Stetson and it was just an fair, start. I think I gave up 6 or 7 runs and it wasn't that great. And then we went to Ole Miss, who was really good. And I gave up a ton of beer showers. Like it was a home run derby. And I was like, man, I was kind of second guessing this. Like, do I need to go back to the bullpen? Like, because we were winning a bunch of games too. That was the other thing. Is like, we just had an older group that just got it. And there was a lot of chemistry, a lot of things going on. And you're like, man, am I holding this thing back? Like what's going on? And then, then it started to get on a roll on the mound, and it just, it kind of goes back to as well as what I was saying beforehand is like I kind of made that flip halfway through my junior year of like I'm going to stop worrying about all this draft stuff, right? Like just go play, and that served me so well throughout my career after that, and that was just kind of what that was, right? It was just going out and having fun and competing and playing the game, and it did, man. It was. There are so many things that happened during that year where you're just like, you look back on it now and it's fun to talk about, but like in the moment, like I didn't think anything of it. I really didn't. I was just enjoying what I was doing, having a good group of guys to do it with, and then just like I said, being lost in the competition and
there it is.
Winning games.
Lost in the competition, man. That might be the name of this part too. Lost in the competition. We'll see.
Yes.
We'll see if you come up with anything else. Man,
because I mean, there was a lot of moments during all of that. I can go to a million different things. I mean, the Wichita State first time Carbondale ever beat Wichita in a series was that year.
Oh, wow.
And in game 2 of that, I won a complete game, no earned, and it felt like I was basically just throwing a sinker after sinker after sinker, and it was ground ball city. It was just, I felt like I was playing wiffle ball with them, right? Like that's what it felt like. And to do it against a team like that was something.
What was your repertoire?
That was really it, man. Heavy, like sinker slider guy. Really had been more of a 4-seam guy leading up to that point, and then really sinker slider, but the changeup really took a huge step forward. Mm-hmm. And so if the slider was on, I could rack up some strikeouts because of the changeup was what I was trying to get to. Yeah. But I was better against left-handed hitters than I was righties. So then to get the slider going, neutralize the righties a little bit against me. So that was a good thing.
What were you sitting at velo-wise?
At that point in time was like 88, 92, but there would be a lot of times where I could get to 3 and 4 really easily, and it was not straight. And I think you've had a couple of people that have said that. Like I love to pitch in. I had the command to pitch in, so being able to throw it for a strike and then walk it off the plate made my 88 to 92 seem a lot harder than what it was.
Yeah, man. Okay.
What's
the man? I talked to your dad. Obviously, I talked to your dad a lot, but he talked about. I believe there were even scouts, talking to you. I'm sure all year, but you guys were even hearing as high as 1 to 3 rounds going. Is that?
There was some talk about like maybe after the third round. None of the, really that stuff you believe in until you get down to
Yeah,
it, right? And
sure.
it wasn't until, for me, there was a little bit of like, maybe this might happen moment was at the end of the season. We were all done playing.
Yeah,
You're fielding phone calls, and all of a sudden, I've got 4 or 5 guys saying the same thing, that
yeah,
6 through 10 is where it's going to happen. So
sure.
that's when I knew that was going to be the case.
How are you
So,
seeing yourself position wise at this point? Are you thinking, I want to be a shortstop moving forward? I want to be a pitcher. Do you care?
well, to me, I didn't care, but everyone was saying the same thing, which is like, you can get to the big leagues quickly as a pitcher. Like,
Yeah.
and that's what I kind of bought into.
Hmm.
It's kind of weird to say this, but there was a couple teams that didn't even have me turned in as a pitcher. There's a
Really?
couple that had me only turned in as a position player. And then when I was talking to them leading up to the draft, it's like, I'm not going to get to where you have me as a position player, because I was projected like in,
Ah,
like 12 to 15 as a position player. And I was like, I'm not going to get there.
and higher as a
I
pitcher. Interesting.
100%.
Man.
So that part of it was, for me, it kind of made my decision, right? Like,
Yeah.
people were saying, we're going to draft you as a pitcher higher than as a position
Yeah.
player, and you can get there quickly. I didn't care. I just,
Okay.
I think we all just want to play in the big leagues, right? If you say you get a
Interesting.
choice, that's fine.
Well, I
So,
wanted to know, because I didn't know if,
yeah,
like, in your heart you're like, I'm a shortstop. I'm going as a shortstop. This is what I'm doing. But you just wanted to play pro ball. However,
just wanted an opportunity.
yeah,
And just from having talked to everybody, it was going to happen a lot easier
yeah,
and probably more of a sure bet on the
yeah.
mound. So,
I thought it would have been interesting if some team would have. I mean, obviously it's easy to look back, but if some team would have taken you and been like, okay, we're going to give you 2 or 3 years as a shortstop. If you don't
yeah,
figure it out, then we're going to throw you on the mound. And that happens with some guys, with big arms.
for sure. So it's pretty interesting. Once I got hurt in pro ball, that I had a bunch of people reach out about doing the opposite, like going back and playing
Really?
a position. Yeah, and I was like, yeah, I'm good. Like, it's
Are,
not where it needs to be anyway.
yeah.
So
All right. Aren't
yeah,
going to go make it.
no,
Okay.
no.
Well, cool,
Yeah,
man. Let's. What did it mean to you to be named, the Joe Carter MVC Player of the Year?
that part of it was like, it's something like you don't think about, especially in the moment. It's kind of funny. I had a teammate named Dean Cadamatori, who's a freshman at that time, and
Uh-huh.
he, like, with like a week left to go in the year, he's like, dude, you're gonna be player of the year in the league. And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, there's some dudes in this league. There's no chance. And he's like, no, I mean, have you looked at your stats? Like, there's no way. He's like,
Yeah.
there's no way. And that was one of the first times it ever dawned on me, like, something like that might be happening.
Yeah.
But it meant a lot to me, just because it meant other people respected what I had done, right?
Sure.
And like I said, I do think it's it all goes back to winning. If you're winning, then things like that, the accolades take care of themselves.
Yeah. Well said.
So
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't at least ask you. I already know what your major is, but you were a collegiate athlete.
yeah,
Computer science, was that the path, essentially?
information systems. Yeah.
Okay. IT. Okay.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
What did you think you were going to do with that?
So I just like technology.
Yeah.
That was a big thing for me. I had some internships and did some other things with it,
Yeah.
and just enjoyed it. Right. Worked for the school district a little bit with my aunt, and done some other things. So, like, that part of it was all good. And you never know what you're going to do. So
Yeah.
it's something that I use every day, but it's not something that I'm in anymore.
Yeah.
So,
All right, man.
yes.
The draft coming up. Let's talk
Yes.
about, how was this process for you?
It was weird, like I said, because at that point in time I was a senior. There was no negotiating. It was
No.
nothing,
Yeah.
and
The
I,
senior
I really
sign.
wasn't. I really wasn't hearing much other than, like, hey, like, this might be happening, and then it was like a week before the draft starts that the you know started hearing rounds and things like that. And for me, it was a little bit overwhelming, just because I wasn't handling the fact that, like, everyone was asking me all these questions about things I didn't know.
Yeah.
Friends, family, teammates, coaches, like, everybody's like, you're gonna get a chance, right?
Sure.
And at that point in time, I knew that I was probably going to get that chance. Like,
Yeah.
the question was out of it. It was more of when. But that was a little bit overwhelming for me, like,
Yeah.
just not knowing what it was going to be. But and not that that's ever a bad thing, knowing that you're going to get the chance, but
Yeah.
it was a little overwhelming. Yeah.
Sure. But then eventually the call does come. We go in the 7th round to the Detroit Tigers. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And going right in line with that being overwhelmed type of thing is the day of the draft, I snuck out of the house.
Yeah.
Left, actually, Scott Beach, my best friend, comes and picks me up, and we go play golf. And
Because you were nervous?
him, not so much that, as I just didn't want all the questions, right? I didn't have the answers, so I just wanted to get away. We went and played golf at Bum Park, and I just told him while we're playing golf, like, I'm not answering this phone unless it's a team, unless I have to answer this. And he held me to that. I answered for the Braves and the Tigers.
Yeah.
And then as we got home, the Yankees had called, and so I knew that there were some teams kind of lining up who it was going to be. But when we got home from playing golf, the draft portion, because they were in like the 3rd or 4th round, had started, and we were kind of listening, but not really like paying too much attention of it. There were some friends over, some other things. And then, like I said, I ended up getting a call from the Yankees saying, "Hey, we're thinking about taking you here in the 6th. Are you good with it?" It's like, yeah.
Sure.
I mean, why does it matter? And the scout that is from the Yankees, that's from this area, is a very good friend of mine. Played for Cal at Eastern Illinois.
Okay.
And so there's some parallels there. And then they ended up passing in the 6th, and I wasn't even paying attention. We get over at that time, it would come up on the call on the internet. So like you could just follow along, and they had a draft tracker. And my dad was listening, and he heard it, and he just started yelling, "It's over, it's over."
Yes.
And
it's over.
That was it.
Yeah.
I started hugs and all that stuff. And then
how excited was he?
Crazy excited. Crazy. Like it. And then the best part was he was like looking at their affiliates, and he was doing all this research, and then he's like, "Yep, their Midwest team sucks. Maybe you'll go straight there." And I'm thinking to myself, "There's no way. Like I have no idea what any of this brings."
But you did.
Come to find out, I did. But it was just a fun day after that, right? It was, talking to people on the phone, doing a bunch of stuff, doing a couple interviews, and then, having all my buddies and all, you have your people, people were stopping through to have a beer and just kind of hang out. And that day was a lot of fun.
Man, yeah. So then, so how does, obviously you're a senior sign, so not a lot of leverage there. How did that go talking money with them?
Yeah. So, the scout calls, and he's like, "Hey, this is what we got," and I'm, I feel like I'm somewhat intelligent with some of this stuff. I was like, "Well, what about a 3% rate of inflation and all this stuff from the year before?" And he's like, "This is what we got. You either take it or leave it." I was like, "Sounds good, man. You tell me what." And then he was at my house the next day, and 2 days later, I was on a plane to Florida.
Man, what'd that feel like to sign that contract, bud?
It was awesome, man. You couldn't wipe that smile off my face. And it just, it's just culmination of so many years of doing it, right? Like
man. What a culmination.
It's your childhood dream you're living out, right? So that part was cool. And then, to then go and start your career right after that is even better.
Was it hard for you putting down that shortstop glove, that bat?
Not really. Like I said, I was fully ingrained in what I was doing. I think the toughest part was the times I was ever a starter in pro ball. It was like, man, I hate sitting around for 4 or 5 days. Like I loved being a reliever because you had that opportunity to throw every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day. I love that part of it. I just wanted to be out there. I didn't care what it was.
I might be getting ahead of myself a little bit, but once you obviously had you were in pro ball for a while here. When you saw the other shortstops that you were playing with against, did you feel like you could have competed? You could have played?
Yeah, yes and no. I didn't think I was as offensive as those guys or athletic enough, but some of the other traits I think certainly would have carried out. But those guys are so good, man. Would I been able to hold my own? Probably. Excel at it? Probably not. I was not as good as a lot of those other guys. So.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
So I already know where you get signed here. We go to the West Michigan Whitecaps or the Midwest League. Let's talk about that year one, man. What was it like showing up and doing your thing?
So it was really interesting going to mini camp in Lakeland. They send you down there, you go through physicals, you do all this stuff. And then we had a couple practices, couple inter squads. And then they post who's going to go to Oneonta, who's going to go to what's your short season, who's going to go to rookie ball.
Yeah.
And they just put it up on the bulletin board, and I go and I'm like, my name's not on either one of these. And one of my like buddies that I had played in the Cape with the year before or 2 years prior, his name's not on there. And he's like, I didn't get placed. And I was like, neither
Right.
did I. Like, are we in trouble? Like, what happened?
Right. Where we going?
And next thing you know, this guy, John Matlack, who's the pitching coordinator, pulls us in the office, says, I need to see both of you right now. I'm like, okay. He's like, you're not on either team. Okay, I saw that. And he's like, you're leaving on a plane for Grand Rapids, Michigan tomorrow. You're going straight to low A. I was like, oh, man, great, because Peoria, some of the other places, it was great to then go with a buddy of mine that I knew was just a great experience, and then get there and, have a lot of success, right? I almost felt like I said, that
Right off the bat.
the Cape is like high A baseball. This was like just an extension of college. I just didn't think it was that much different. So
2.39 ERA, 32 Ks, 37 innings pitched, 25 games. So, man, hit the ground running. Obviously, proving you are belonging, proving that you are, excelling. I mean, that's got to be quite the bump to your confidence to go into pro ball and shove right away.
For sure. And my numbers would be a hell of a lot better on there. I probably have the worst game of all time during this stretch, which is extremely relevant because I have a lot of families from the Chicagoland area.
Yeah.
They've never seen me play ball other than this one game that they went to that I pitched. And I came into a game, it was 2-1. And I'm pretty sure that I faced 7 or 8 hitters, did not record an out, gave up like 5 runs, is legitimately the worst game I've ever had. And I have like aunts, uncles, cousins. It's the only game they've ever seen me throw. Or even play for that matter.
Like, man, PJ sucks.
The worst possible game that I've ever had was then. But it like tripled my ERA, anything. So I did have a good year, but it would have been like an incredible year if it wasn't for that one outing in Chicago. Yeah, it's crazy.
So after that year ends, what are we you get sent to Instructs?
Yeah, get sent to Instructs. Wasn't real excited about it just because I was ready for a break. I threw 100 innings, go through 30 there.
How's your arm feeling at this point?
It was good. It was nothing. I really didn't have any issues with it at all. Still, everything was great. I think it was more of just going to Instructs and what they were trying to get me to do.
What was that?
Which was develop my slider. My slider was always my third pitch, right? And in pro ball, it started to show up that I struggled a little bit against right-handed hitters, right? And so trying to get that slider was probably the missing piece to me moving even quicker and going. And that's really what I was doing like every single day, was throwing a million sliders. And because of that, that's the first time I hurt my arm, right?
Is that when it starts?
Strained my elbow. And really it's like a hangover from there to even the next year, right? It just didn't feel right until I got like a month into the season the next year, and it was like, okay, we're back to where we were. Like this is it. So,
do you think there was some damage done there, like maybe the start fraying of the UCL, or?
For sure, I do. It wasn't nearly what it ended up being, but there was probably that's probably the first time that something really happened.
Okay, so then did you come home and shut it down then for the rest of the winter? Or?
They kept me there through the Instructs. Like I did some, light throwing, did a bunch of work with their guys. And then when I came home, I was fine. Like there was, like I said, there was a very like lingering issues, but it wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't like there's, I needed to go see a doctor or anything like that. But I came home, had a normal off season, worked out in Springfield, spent some time in Chicago with my girlfriend at the time, now wife. And it was completely normal.
What were you doing? Were you working any kind of jobs or anything like that? I thought I remember you substitute teaching or something like that.
I did. I did that
I did too.
every off season.
Yeah.
It's such a good gig. It keeps you involved. You can set your own hours. I love doing that.
Yeah. So that's what you did that off season?
I did. And I did that every off season that I had in pro baseball.
I did too, because, it was decent money and it was nice hours. You'd be done by 3:00-ish. So you have time to do all the training you needed to do in the evening. And, as a sub, you're not doing any you're not preparing lesson plans or anything like that.
There's nothing afterwards. And the places that I had worked, I got in pretty good with them, and they knew that I was dependable. So you'd get the late night phone call instead of the early morning phone call, which is always a plus.
So going into your first pro off season here, what are you feeling like you need to address? Is there anything that like glaring to you? Like I need to get something, I need to change something, or I need to make some adjustments as a pro?
Well, I think that the two things that it kept coming back to is just continuing to develop my slider. If I could do that, that was going to be the thing. And the other thing is I'd seen this big jump and just taking care of my body. I wanted to make sure that I was as strong as I could be and in a good place to be able to withstand the entire year the next year. And, just continuing to really get after the weight room and put on like another 10 pounds of good weight.
Nice.
I was about 200. So everything was going in a good direction for me.
Quite the jump from that 130-pound freshman to Carbondale.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. People laugh about that all the time. They're like, yeah, I put on over north of 50 pounds from the time I started college to pro baseball.
That is nuts. Obviously, that does a lot for power and velocity.
It does.
What would you say the highest you ever got up to velo wise in pro ball?
When I then went to the bullpen, I was a lot of like 92, 94, seeing some 95s. And it was strikes. That was the big thing for me. And that's why I had success is it was low to mid 90s with strikes, right? And that's why the stuff held up.
And I couldn't find it, but I remember, I told you I was a Baseball America guy. I loved that magazine. And I remember reading like they valued you. I think you were like a top 10 pitching prospect in their organization around this time, or maybe it was after the next year, but they obviously thought you were special. And those kind of numbers, if you're sitting mid 90 with a lot of run and sink and stuff, absolutely.
Yes.
I get that.
Yeah. And the one thing I loved about it at that time, they were kind of like an old school organization. So that fit me, right? Like that fit who I was as a competitor and everything else. And because of that, they understood my value. And it was kind of a perfect marriage with that, right? They pushed me. They allowed me to do some things a little bit differently. And because of that, I had success. And that's one of the rare times that happened.
Yeah. So now we're going into our first spring training. Take me there, man. What's that first spring training like for you? Just what do you remember? What stands out?
This is about the first time that I ever missed hitting because you get the spring training and all you do is play catch. You throw your bullpen and then you stand up and shag for hours on end. So I was like, this sucks. Now I know why pitchers are so weird and they talk and do dumb things is because of that right there.
They're bored.
100%. They're just bored. They just have more time. I swear to God that they could solve all the world's problems economically, whatever you need to, if you just gave bullpen guys like enough time and some ideas. But yeah, that was it. Like I said, there was a little bit of a hangover from the year before of just like being a little tired.
Yeah.
But I got with an amazing coaching staff that I just, look back on so fortunate. Mike Rojas and Britt Burns and Larry Herndon were the guys at High A, and that was the team I was with. And once again, like I said, what I was all about, they were all about, and it was just a perfect marriage of what was about to go on. So.
Did you feel overwhelmed at all in spring training, just seeing that many players there? Or
not really. It goes back to the same thing of just being like too dumb to know I should probably be worried about it. And like I said, coming off success from the year before, I felt like I was in a good spot. Yeah. I was really hoping that I was not going to go back to West Michigan, that I was going to just continue to move up. I know what I had done the year before was rare, but I felt like I had shown enough that I was ready to go to the next level.
Yeah.
And from day one, I was in that mix. I never wavered from it. So it was exciting to then be able to do that. So,
So we get sent to Lakeland, High A in the Florida State League.
Yes.
How was that experience for you?
It was interesting. It's like the true minor leagues at that point in time. There was like 5 of us in a 3-bedroom house. We would rotate who was sleeping on the air mattress in the kitchen, things like that. It was not glamorous.
I love those stories.
Not at all. 4 pitchers and a catcher, and just the best group of dudes that I've ever been around. Like that was why it was so much fun.
Who'd you live with?
So I lived with Chris Robinson, who ended up playing in the big leagues. Lived with Kevin Ardoin, who was my buddy that I had played with in the Cape. He is from Louisiana Lafayette. Kevin Whalen, who ended up pitching in the big leagues. And then Jeff Hahn, who is from Clemson. Just a great group. And then when Chris got traded, he got traded for Nefi Perez that year to the Cubs during the pennant race. We actually got Andrew Miller, who, the longtime big leaguer, which was always funny.
I know the connection. Yeah.
He had just signed for like $5 million and he got sent to our team. And it was like, dude, you're sleeping on an air mattress. And he was like, yep, I don't care. And like one of my favorite people I've ever been around because of that. Like he was worth whatever you wanted to call, and he didn't care. He's just one of the dudes. And he was an alien compared to the rest of us. Like it was crazy.
Yeah, he's like 6'8", isn't he?
Yeah. And his arms are literally like 10 times the wingspan. Like it's nuts.
I've seen a picture of you down on like the field with Andrew Miller when he was in the big
leagues.
Leagues.
So fast forward, this was in 2018 or 2019. Cardinals were playing, and he's always like taking care of my family anytime we've asked.
Wow.
Things like that. But Sam Coonrod, who was a kid I coached at Carbondale, was playing for the Giants, and we hadn't seen Miller in a while. So I said, hey, let's go on the field. Let's go check this out. Let's see what this is all about. And so we did that, and it was really cool just to be able to, see those guys, right, and see them in their element. My kids got to hang out on the field with them, do all that stuff. It was really cool. So
that's a core memory if I've ever heard one.
Yes.
So cool. All right, man. So dealing there, 3.16 ERA, 62 innings, 33 games. Looks like you got 2 starts. 62.2 innings. Strong year before you eventually get moved.
For sure, yeah. And just like I said, kind of get off to a slow start, but I had a coaching staff that believes. Went back to some of my roots, started doing some extra work, things like that. And it was kind of funny because as I got better here, the next thing you know, I'd go out every day at my own before everybody else stretched and everything else. And I had a group of like 6 or 8 guys that went with me every day. And we almost had like our own practice before things started. And that just kept me in line, kept me consistent. And because of that, I started to really hit my stride. And then we had an exceptional bullpen, which was funny because I think only one of those guys ever ended up pitching in the big leagues. Mm-hmm. But then we had like 2 or 3 guys in the rotation that pitched in the big leagues. So, hard to believe that that's the way it works out. But I had a lot of good college guys that were good pitchers, and we had a lot of success. A couple guys made the All-Star team, and then it was right after the All-Star break when I got the chance to go to AA. And
was it cool getting that call?
It was. We were on a road trip. Like, I was totally unexpected. On an 8-day road trip, like day 6, I pitched really well over the last like couple of weeks, and get a phone call like, "Hey man, like let's go. You're going up to AA. Like, just take your stuff." Yeah. And it was really odd. Once again, you talk about the minor leagues and how weird this can be. Is you get a phone call, you take your bag that you've had for an 8-day road trip and your baseball stuff, and you go to AA. I had a car, an apartment, all this other stuff in Florida. I don't end up getting that until the end of the season.
Just leave it, yeah.
Yep, and
that's
just
make
it happen, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in Erie for 2+ months just with a bag of clothes from an 8-day road trip. So.
Tell me about your experience going to AA. That can be, I don't know personally, but from what I read and from when I've talked to like all these pro guys, that's quite the jump sometimes. That AA jump is when there's some dudes.
I 100% agree with that. Biggest jump in baseball I ever had. Get there and just, it's just different, man. Like, I always felt like I had the ability to process the game very quickly and easily. When I got there, it just really felt like, man, these guys are on the same level as I am. So like some of the things that you would be able to get away with and see happen were just next level stuff. And the guys were just so much bigger, faster, stronger. Like, I felt like it was one of those places that if I can have success here, like I can see where this translates to the big leagues.
Yeah. Guys that can cut it in AA, at least.
For sure.
Have the chops, maybe. Yeah.
Guys on my team that have already played a couple of years in the big leagues, like things like that. I mean, it was just cool to see that. Yeah. Right. Like, it just guys that had been there and done that had already been in the big leagues were now playing on the same team as, and it was just a different feeling.
Yeah. And like, I'm looking at your stats here, not terrible, not great, kind of in between. You had a 5 ERA, 27 innings pitched. It's like 16 Ks. How do you feel like that went for you performance wise?
It was pretty good, other than like I made a couple starts up there that weren't very good. And that was kind of the difference, is going from high A to double A, in high A, I kind of had a set role, right? A concrete role. I was seventh, eighth inning guy.
Yeah.
Would come in and usually with people on like that. That was my thing. I would always do that. When I got to double A, it was, I would start, then I would not pitch for a couple of days, and then I would throw in the fifth inning, then I throw in the ninth inning. There was never any consistency to it, and because of that, it just had trouble getting lost in the competition like I had
Yeah.
always wanted to be. And
Yeah.
and like I said, biggest jump in baseball I'd ever had, right?
Yeah.
Like that was it. That was, like I said, I felt like I was starting to hit my groove there, and could see myself now being in the conversation to possibly get a call up just
Yeah.
because like
That's
this
so
was
cool.
big boy baseball.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's your
Yeah.
arm feeling during all this?
No issues with it whatsoever.
Really?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing at all. So
Okay, man. It's like I want to get to the place where these arm issues start, but I also don't. But I'm also sad about it too. Like I want to
Yeah.
get there, but I don't, because
Yes.
obviously probably a place in your life where you had to grow a lot and went through a lot of stuff. But
For sure. But
we'll
no
get there.
issues with it whatsoever. At the end of this year, I got the opportunity to go back to instructs, and I politely declined. And they were going to send me to the Arizona Fall League. But in the end, I told them, like, I'm either going to the Fall League or I'm going to school, because I still had 3 classes to finish up my schooling. And that meant something to me. I wanted to make sure I
Wow.
got that done sooner rather than later, and
Yeah. Good for you.
had everything lined up to be able to do that. So
And that's what you ended up doing?
I ended up doing that. We played our last game in Erie on the Monday of Memorial Day. I flew to Carbondale and was in school the next morning.
Really?
Yes.
So you were like a full-time student down there. You weren't doing like online classes from afar?
I was not. I went
Wow.
down there and I went to school 2 days a week, and then spent the rest of the time in Chicago, Springfield, wherever it may be, just because at that point in time, like I said, I was really close to being done and kind of doing some other things in life anyway.
That's cool that you thought that was, so highly of that to go back and finish that up. Obviously, you were someone that
Yes.
valued being in the classroom.
Yes.
Number 2 at Lane Fair, obviously, yeah, strong student. Good for you.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, man. So it's just like a pretty normal off season outside of that. You're just training for baseball, getting ready.
Absolutely.
As far as you know, your arm is normal, is healthy.
Yeah,
You're ready to
have
roll.
have no issues with it at all.
Okay.
Working out, doing the same stuff that I've been doing. Very diligent in the weight room. Nothing out of the ordinary. And I actually get a chance to go to spring training a little bit early with a thing called the Peak Camp, which is like they bring in another like 25 to 30 guys that are kind of on the radar that aren't going to big league spring training. So you go there early, you do some things, and that's usually the group that kind of filters in and get the call ups when they need extra people.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, man. I almost feel like a little sense of sadness coming over me right now. Like I know everything has worked out for you, and you're a happy guy, and you're doing well. But
yes.
Like I said, I grew up looking up to PJ, and like I myself had like 5 surgeries in college, and a big part of my story is my body fell apart. I know the pain of getting the game taken away from you, of having these surgeries. Let's just start off. So we go to our second spring training here.
Yes.
Normal spring training.
Normal spring training. Same kind of thing. I'm right in with the AA guys.
Yeah.
And it was actually very early in spring training. Get a chance to go to like I wouldn't even call it like a split squad game, but pretty close to it. Like a lot of big league guys on the backfield type thing with Houston. And, just go, and I'm slated to throw like the 7th inning. Man, throw the 7th inning, give up a hit to one of my roommates from Cape Cod, the guy who actually hit the home run in that championship game, Nick Moresi.
Oh, cool.
And then, I had 3 strikeouts.
Yeah.
And this is with a lot of like big league guys. Like this is a legit game, right?
Yeah.
And I was feeling really good about myself, like where I was at, everything else. And I remember being like, man, I'm a little bit more sore than I should be, but like nothing crazy. And then fast forward to the next day, I was like, I wake up and it's like, oh my God, what happened? Like something's
right.
Obviously not right.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't even extend my arm, couldn't straighten it, couldn't open my door of my dorm room, like nothing. And I remember like, I was kind of like a guy that loved to be at the clubhouse. And I remember going early and just like going to our trainer being like, man, I don't know what I did, but this is not good. Like, I don't feel right. And, then go through the whole process of what that looks like. And,
tests and MRIs and that kind of stuff.
Test, did not get an MRI at this point in time because of my history of spraining it or straining it a year and a half ago. Like, I bounced back pretty quick, and that's kind of what they were hoping as well. Kind of took a step back, doing a bunch of rehab stuff, and then start up like a build-up process again.
Okay.
Towards the end of spring training. And like it felt okay, but I just felt like, man, maybe it's just like I need to get back into it a little bit. Like it didn't feel terrible, but it didn't feel great. And then I get the opportunity to break with the AA club, pretty much on just my background, right? The fact that I've had success, like I had showed nothing up until that point that I was ready. It was really just on what I had done in the past. So.
Yeah. I mean, when they were ramping you back up, did your velo get back to where it should be?
It didn't. It never got to. And fast forward to, we get snowed out the first 3 games of the season that year.
Oh, so you're in cold weather.
Cold weather, and I hate cold weather to begin with.
Sure.
But then, like I said, my track record is, and I have a prior relationship with the AA manager Matt Wallback at the time. I had already played for him in West Michigan, and so. First 2 games get snowed out. We get in the first game, and it's like a 4-2 game or something in the 7th inning, and I get the phone call like, "Hey, get it hot, let's go!" And it's freezing.
Yeah. And
I don't think anything of it. I go into the game, pitch really well. I think I struck out like 5 out of 6 guys in 2 innings. And the next day, I get called into the office, and they're like, "Hey, you good?" Like, "What do you mean? Like, you topped out at 84 last night."
Oh, wow.
And I was like, whoa. I mean, I know it was really cold. And I was like, well, does that have anything to do with it? And he's like, well, I don't know. So, and really, it never got any better. I pitched in a few games after that, but it was never right. And then finally, there was just a thing where like, hey, man, like I'm waving the white flag here. Like, we need to get this looked at. And sure enough, like it was torn.
Yeah.
Have to have surgery. Then there's some talks
torn
with
UCL.
My agent. Yes. Yeah. Torn UCL. Talking with my agent about where to go. What's the best route of, surgeons and rehab and everything else.
You went to Job Clinic, didn't you?
I did. Went out to LA, went to Dr. Yoakum, who at the time, Dr. Andrews was like number 1. Dr. Yoakum's number 2. That was the heaviest of heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Guy that was in the room when Tommy John got the original surgery.
Yeah. So in good hands.
Yes. Yep. And that just started the 2.5-year process of really never coming back. Right. So it's crazy to think about now, but like it have surgery, move to Arizona, start rehab. Coming back from rehab, like I said, working with like some of the best people in the country.
Where are you rehabbing at?
In Tempe, Arizona.
Okay.
Athletico. Their guy with Athletico was
like Tiger sent you there.
Yes, okay. And and Dr. Yoakum's like right-hand man was the PT in Arizona. That's where everybody from the Dodgers and Angels and you name it went. So that's kind of how I got hooked up with them. And like as I'm coming back, like I just never regained the range of motion. I was having all kinds of nerve issues, all kinds of just like setbacks, and it was really weird because I didn't feel like I was doing anything out of the ordinary, or there was anything that I could do about it. I wasn't being lazy, wasn't doing anything like that. And then, get back to spring training the next year, throwing program, all of that, and like it's just not there. Like I have no range of motion.
Yeah.
It just looks funny. Like everything about it was bad. And they sent me to Detroit. Basically cleaned up my elbow, and I had a nerve transposition like during spring training of that year.
Yeah.
And that did next to nothing to help the whole thing.
Yeah.
Still having the same issues.
So that's your second operation.
That's my second one. So this was about 10 months after the first one. And then fast forward like another 2 to 3 months after that is when the doctor from Detroit was like, hey, well, let's just like start all over. Let's see let's open it up. Let's check it all out. let's see what's going on. And when they did that, the original ligament, they went in, opened me up, looked at it, and the
Calcified.
original ligament had calcified. That's why my range of motion wasn't returning. I
Hmm.
had a couple other like bone spurs and bone chips that they did a bunch of cleanup, and basically hit the reset button on the whole thing. So
So where's your head at during this? Are you feeling discouraged? Are you thinking I can still make it back from this? Or
this was probably the first time where I really started to be discouraged, right? Like you hear
yeah,
all these great stories about people that come back and it's
yeah,
all, sunshine and rainbows. And
right.
right,
Yeah,
this is my third elbow surgery in 13 months. Like this is in third major one, not a minor one. So that's where it's kind of like, okay, this is maybe not going great. And
yeah,
then I actually started to kind of get a little excited because I started to get the range of motion back. I started to clear all these hurdles.
hmm,
And it wasn't until like the ultimate, like, you're starting to play catch, you're starting to move, you're starting to progress in the throwing program that I really get like the letdown of like, I don't think this is ever going to be what it was.
yeah. I'm not going to be. This isn't like up to par of a professional pitcher.
Yeah, in what I was prior to surgery.
Yeah,
If you mark that as 100%, I was feeling 75 or 80% at all times. And
yeah,
I think that we all know that, it was going to be a stretch for me to get there anyway. But now, now it's looking very bleak just because I wasn't what I wanted to be or what I could be.
yeah.
So
Were there any more surgeries after this?
there hasn't been, no,
Okay.
no. And if I'm being honest, like I probably could go get it looked at and it probably needs to be cleaned out at this point in time, but
Yeah,
I'm good. Like I've had enough of that. And,
yeah,
that's what you talked about where your head's at. That by the end of this, it was about 2.5 years of you know, training room, weight room,
yeah.
doctor visits, stuff like that is where it just became like, hey, conversation with the organization and myself was like, it's not really happening. They eventually released me on the condition that I could go back if I
Right.
felt like I was ready to go.
Yeah,
And I'm still to this day don't feel like that, right?
yeah,
So it's just kind of where it ended up being. And at that point in time, it got to the point where it's like, this is 2.5 years worth of a grind,
yeah,
and maybe I can do other things, right? Like
yeah.
I want to grow up. I want to have a family. I want to do some of those other things, and just kind of, you know, beating your head against the wall. You can only do that for so long.
Yeah. Was
But
was that was that tough, just making that decision to be like, or I guess it wasn't really a decision you made. It kind of was made
yeah,
for you, but just like to finally be like, it's not going to come back. Like, how painful was this for you?
for sure. I mean, it's kind of something that's always been a huge part of my life was baseball, right?
Yeah.
Like, and
Right.
for the first time ever, it was like, it's not going to be the case.
Yeah.
Uh, Definitely tough. A little bit of excitement because it was like, hey, we can do anything now, and that has never happened for me.
Oh yeah.
But also, like, maybe one of the first times I've ever been like a little bit scared about. I don't know what the next day brings, right? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't have a job lined up. I had nothing else lined up when I made
Yeah.
this decision that I was done playing.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of unknown,
Sure.
but and it was a very tough time. But like, not there was a little bit of excitement because there were so many possibilities.
Okay.
So.
Cool. So it wasn't like the end of the world for you.
No, I mean, I've always loved it, but also like, I don't think it truly defines who I am. There was a
Oh,
lot of other
that's
things that
excellent.
I could do, right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Yeah. Like just like
yes,
Jimmy Rupert said, you could have been anything you wanted. Doctor, a lawyer, PJ could have been anything. So
yes, yeah,
man, walking away from the game. Everyone, it's been really interesting doing these because everyone has walked away from the game in different ways,
for sure.
like it's, it crushed Ryan Aper. He was on the beach crying,
Yeah,
Jason Knadler seemed to not care. Like he was like, okay, what's the next thing? And
for sure.
Dusty Bensko had a hard time. It's just interesting. And hearing how the game ended. Did you think you were done with the game, or did you think you were going to find your way back in at some point?
At that point in time, as crazy as it sounds, like I literally thought that I was done at that point, just
Yeah.
because I was like, my best tool is no longer a thing for me,
Yeah.
and that was probably the most interesting thing. And maybe I'm probably right in the middle of Aper and Knadler, and that I just didn't know what was next. I think probably the one saving grace out of all of that is like I had just like moved to Chicago full time.
Mhm.
I was with my girlfriend at the time who we ended up getting married like a year later. Like
Mhm.
just a lot of like good life things that were happening at that point in time,
Sure.
which certainly made that transition much easier.
Yeah,
And
so you can
I'm
focus on those. Yeah,
yeah, I was really thankful for that in the moment because
that's cool.
for the first time in my life, like the weekends would come and be like,
Yeah.
so what do you do now?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I've never not played baseball.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what this is like.
Yeah.
So there was some of that kind of stuff. And like I said, I was really fortunate to have, my now wife that was an amazing support system, and parents were the same way. Like
Mhm.
so many good things that were still going on at that time.
Shout out to Courtney.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Um, one thing I wanted to talk about, just or touch a little bit, is that it was kind of a joke coming up in baseball. I thought of like some guys used to joke like, I want to get TJ, because you always hear the story of I'm coming back, adding 3, 4, 5 miles per hour. But that's not always the case. Obviously,
No.
as with you, I knew if you remember the name John Eck, he had
Yeah.
a thunderbolt
Yeah.
for an arm. Had TJ, was never the same. Baseball is littered with guys that don't come back. We just hear about the guys that do.
For sure. And
Yeah.
I think a little bit that's a misconception, because a lot of times what people don't understand is during that time you get your body in like the best shape it's ever been in because you have
Yes.
nothing else to do.
Absolutely.
One of the guys that I was rehabbing right alongside with is a guy that I kind of became like my little brother, and I brought him along through the process. His name was Casey Crosby. We essentially had surgery at the same time, and
Mhm.
this guy was a high school kid, and he totally transformed his body. I'll never forget, like one of his first bullpens, he's like 94, 95, and I'm like, oh my god, like this is what it's supposed to look like. This is awesome, and I was so pumped for my guy.
Yeah.
And then when he ends up pitching in the big leagues, he guy throws 100
Yeah.
miles an hour, like. But he was like 88, 92 before he had surgery, but his
Yeah.
body changed so much during that time.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big misconception because it's still surgery.
Sure.
It's not anything that's good. Surgery's not
Yeah.
good for you.
No. Do you feel like
So,
you grew as a person going through all this?
a little
You know?
bit. I certainly matured and grew up a little bit.
Sure.
And kind of realized that there was more outside of the game than originally what I had thought.
Yeah.
The big thing is I don't really have any regrets about it all because I don't
Oh,
feel like there's
love it.
anything more I could do.
Perfect.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I felt like I grinded and I did all the weightlifting and all the rehab and all those little things. So like that made
Perfect.
it easier for me to move on because
Yeah, you did it.
I didn't feel like that there was anything more I could have done.
Yeah.
So,
It'd be harder to look back if maybe you didn't look under every stone or work as hard or do all that. So
yeah,
absolutely good for you. All right, man.
100%.
So we're moving on here. That's crazy. All right. Wait, this is my third part grade quotes here.
Okay.
This is going to complete them, I believe. Yep. We're going to complete some of our grade quotes here. So I had to, like I said, we talked so much. There were so many quotes that I had to break them up. Let's see. We'll start off. Some of these kind of bounce around a little bit, but this was from your dad, that was of Cal. Oh my God, I can't believe he was going to come when you were coming to Carbondale. He really thought you were going to be something special. We already told the story about Coach Cal looking down at you and you tying your spikes, and he was like, this little guy.
Yeah.
He said one of your dad's biggest regrets was not coming out to see you in the Cape. I guess it just didn't quite work out for him, and he wished looking back he would have got that opportunity.
Yes.
I already said this, but he said you told him after your junior year, Dad, I'm going to work harder than I have ever worked before. I want a chance to keep playing. I love that quote. So cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. You talked about the Andrew Miller connection. He said every time you moved somewhere, Miller would kind of follow you.
For sure.
And I love that story about you. He's a $5 million guy sleeping on a blow up mattress. That's
care.
Baseball, isn't it? Man,
yeah. One of the best humans because of that.
He said Erie was the worst place they could have sent you because it was cold and you were having arm issues. It didn't help.
For sure.
Yep. Let's see. Oh man, this was cool. And it's jumping ahead, but it's awesome about your arm. So once you were hired as pitching coach, we are jumping ahead here at Carbondale. He said you were in. He lit up when he told this story. He said you were throwing BP, and there was some hitter that was like taking balls, and you were starting to get a little annoyed. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, come on, it's BP. Yeah. He was like, yeah. I'm trying to see game like, and you were like, okay, you want to see game like, and He said that like half the team scrambled and was all excited, and, like went behind the turtle to watch because this has happened before, I guess, where
Yes.
someone irritates you a little bit, and then they said you start lighting it up. Like, you want to see game like, and then it's like you were
For
like
sure.
they said they got the gun out and you were in the 90s and just lighting this guy up.
And throwing from like a short distance. So I was not at the mound when this happened. I still have the competitive juices. Don't let anybody fool you on that. And that shit takes over during that time. So.
He said the coaching bug has always been in PJ. Oh man, has a little bit of a temper and had a tendency to destroy some helmets back in his day. So talked about you having to replace a helmet at Carbondale, maybe one at Landfair. Is that something that happens every once in a while?
That's very true. Ken Henderson one time gave me a pink helmet and said that if I kept destroying them, that I was going to have to wear this. So there's a few of those.
That's amazing, dude. He said you wanted to be did not want to be a pro coach because of the travel and the prima donnas. He's proud of you being a North End kid, that tough North Ender, proud of going to Landfair. His downtime is with his family. Family comes first. He's a great dad and great head coach. He has that North End toughness, and that completes our great quotes.
Yes.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
There is a lot of that, and I'm obviously very thankful for all the things that he's done. But having him as a coach for so long is a great, basically, mentor to follow.
Sure. So, yeah. So life after baseball, man. Take me there. What are we doing?
Well, I start out substitute teaching again, get involved with the school.
You were up in the Chicago area.
I was up in Chicago area. My wife and I bought a house in Evanston and living there, total culture shock for me. But then get hooked up with a couple kids, doing some lessons, and another Springfield connection. Steve Shilsky is actually the one that gets me involved, like dumb luck.
Really?
With some other people, and I started giving lessons. One of the guys that I'm giving lessons to says, "Hey, we don't really have a coach, 14 and under team. Would you like to coach?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Like, I'm just kind of doing this to make some money at the time, and never forget this. Like, go to my first game. It's like April. It's freezing cold in Chicago, and my team's terrible, but it's so much fun. Anyway, I get go to the game and we win, and I feel like I'm just going 1,000 miles an hour trying to coach every little bit, but just having so much fun. And I could get home, and I remember talking to my wife, just like, that was way more fun than I thought it was going to be. Like, man, like this is, 100%. I'm like, this is great. And then to go on and coach that team the rest of the year. Then I took like 4 or 5 kids from that team, formed my own team, helped create like a bigger footprint for this place that I was working at. And then that team ends up like legitimately like becoming one of the best teams that we've ever had in the program. We win the Cabo Midwest Regional. We go into the Cabo World Series and we finish in like the top 8.
Full circle,
just
man.
Doing
that's crazy.
all these like great things. And I just remember being like, okay, like this is a calling, right? This is something I should be doing.
You realized it. Yeah.
In the moment, like, talking to Cal, talking to Henry, talking to other people, like, how can I get into this? How can I expand my role? I'd like to get into college. I feel like that'd be cool. Actually have a couple interviews at Northwestern, UTSA, a couple interviews to be an assistant. And I'm like, man, like this might have some legs, all the while, just like using Cal and Hendy as references and having a lot of conversation with them. And then fast forward, their pitching coach leaves. And the doors open and it's like, hey, like I'm going in, just like everybody else as a candidate. There's, go down, interview, do all the things that I need to do. And then I still have the email. Cal sends me an encrypted email telling me that I got the job. And I couldn't tell because I was reading the email on my phone. And I had like sent him an email like asking for an update of what's going on. And he's like, did you read the email? Did you read the email? Did you read the email? I was like, yeah, I did, but like it doesn't tell me anything. And so if I then pulled it up when I got home and the email if you look at it on the computer, if you look at the first letter that he capitalized and put in bold, it said, "Yes, it's you." Like, that's how I got the job. So,
That's
you know,
great.
that's a Dan Callahan thing right there, no
Man.
doubt. But like, obviously that then jump starts to what I'm doing now. And it's just an amazing opportunity to go back to your roots, right? Go back to a place
Yeah.
that means so much to you and do your thing. And
Yeah.
and to learn under Cal and Hendu, guys I had so much respect for, and
Yeah.
just absolutely love my time there.
Yeah. I've got a couple Cal quotes that I found on the internet about you starting your coaching there. I'm going to run them. PJ was a very high energy as a student athlete, and we hope he can bring that same energy level to SIUC baseball from a coach's perspective. I feel strongly that he is at a great stage in his life where he's young enough to be able to relate with our pitchers, yet still be in a position where he can say, "This is the way I want it done. I'll show you how we want to do it." He's mature beyond his years as far as his knowledge of the game, and I think because of his experience in professional baseball, he will be able to bring more of that to the table. We thought the world of PJ as a player, and now it's great to see him come full circle and become a member of our coaching staff. That must have been so cool because just there a few years before, and now that, I mean, Hendu and Cal both were there when you were there, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and now you're a part of it.
Dan Callahan hires me. Such a cool moment to go back and work with them. Unfortunately, obviously, he was very sick at the time, and then shortly thereafter passes away. But just unbelievable to have the respect for them to hire me and bring me into to the staff was probably one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me. For them to think that highly of me,
totally.
Certainly is something I look back on now, and I'm very thankful for. Like, I'm very, very thankful for.
You wouldn't have been that old when you started this, right? 25, 26?
I was 5 years removed. I started in the fall of 2010. So that would make me 27, about to turn 28.
Yeah. So not a huge age gap between you and some of those players. I mean, you obviously would have related very well, I imagined.
For sure. And for them, they were on the older side at that point in time. They had been doing it for 20 plus years themselves. So it was easy for me to inject some new life into what we were doing there. And, it was a really good marriage of where it was at and where we were about to take it and everything else. So.
Was it apparent early on in your coaching career that you eventually wanted to be a head coach, or were you happy being a pitching coach? Or
I was very happy doing what I was doing and being an assistant. I like that. I like the recruiting aspect and getting out and hitting the road and watching games and getting to know players and all of that. Something I very much enjoy as we speak. But that I knew my role with those guys. Like they were such figureheads, especially in that program that I knew so much about. It was my thing to kind of carry the torch of the good pitching coaches we had and really try to move the program forward, help aid them as much as I possibly could.
Yeah. So eventually Dan had to kind of step to the side because of his illness.
He did, but it was more of, he did not truly step aside until he passed away.
Really? All the way up to the end?
It wasn't until then. Man. And then, obviously Coach Henderson was then given the reins. Yeah. But it wasn't until then, man. That's the one thing I can always say about Cal is he fought till the very end about all of that stuff. And, I have so much respect for him just because of the way he handled it all. But that was his life's passion, and there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, what an absolute warrior, champion of a person. And then, so then Hendo took over. Then did your role kind of change once that?
Just more. I had more responsibilities from that point forward. Right, I was Hendu's right hand guy, and my role grew on the whole staff, right? I was in charge of more, I had more onus on what we were doing. And it was a little bit of trial by fire for sure. Just because I was green with my experience, and that grew really quickly. I was able to use some of the pro ball stuff. And then, like I said, I got a lot of freedom from Hendu to do what I needed to do. And, there was varying bouts of success with all of it, but it was, it was a little bit of a trial by fire.
Feeling like you're on the right path, like this is your calling at this point in life.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Absolutely. Like to jump in, I had a really special group of kids that I inherited. Like just guys that like we saw eye to eye from day one, and I was able to get a ton out of them. And, going through what we went through with Coach Cal was maybe a part us growing together really quickly, but just an awesome group of kids. And I was so fortunate enough to coach, and they had long careers. A couple of those guys got drafted. They made it pretty far in pro ball. Like, it was just a good group to start with. And then that just kind of propelled, like, yes, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. I love it, man. It's just like you going back to Carbondale is just like a match made in heaven. I think everyone that knows you from the area, that knows Carbondale baseball, probably thought it was a foregone conclusion that eventually you would take over that program. You were there for 9 years, and eventually,
yes,
Hendo kind of got told that it was time to leave,
for sure,
essentially. And like, can you talk about how that ended for you there?
A little bit.
Sure.
That's one of those things that I don't talk a ton about it, just because
I understand.
I hold Carbondale in such a light, right? That place means so much to me, and even more so with family life and things like that, right? I met my wife at Carbondale. Both my kids were born there. So many of our core memories are rooted in Carbondale, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So for us, I don't talk about it a lot, just because you get the sense like I want to move on, right?
Sure.
When Hendu was let go and I was given the opportunity to interview and go through the process, and then kind of at the end, there were some things where I wasn't really considered for the job, and they weren't really truthful about that. So when I got wind of that, and they finally became honest with me at the end of the process, I knew at that point in time it was time to go, right? It was just it was time to move on. It was trying to find the next thing. I was so fortunate enough to land with Sean Lyons, who is a great mentor of mine and a good friend of mine at SIUE, and that really just opened the floodgates for everything that's going on now.
Yeah, you worded that so perfectly. I love how you can kind of separate some of your memories there, and keep the really special ones, and not
for sure.
Sometimes things work out how they're supposed to, and maybe they don't end ideally, and
absolutely.
that's okay. And I love that you still have a lot of love in your heart for Carbondale. So,
I do.
PJ Finigan is Carbondale to me.
I do, and the people that have gone to school there know this, and I'm sure that some people, especially because it's deep rooted in Springfield. But there's just something about it. It's different, man. Like, when people talk about like Saluki maroon and things like that, it's a thing. It really is. Like, you wear something Saluki, like, somebody's gonna stop you and talk to you about it every single time. And that mattered to me, especially as a coach too, right? Because like, you're carrying the torch that much more, and I still do. I still carry that torch. It's just a little bit different. So for me now, I see it now as like a blessing in disguise. I absolutely love what I'm doing. I absolutely love where I'm at. I absolutely love the people I'm doing it with. Like, things have worked out, and I'm so very fortunate for my time there, because it's led me to where I'm at now.
You ready for some Kenny Henderson quotes?
Let's hear it.
Kenny Henderson, man, I had a great time talking with this guy. Sounds like he's just golfing it up, living life how you're supposed to as a retiree.
He is a hilarious human being who his energy is infectious, man. I've always enjoyed being around him.
Yep, I had a great time to chat with him. So here's Kenny Henderson on PJ. He's one of those guys that needs to be in the game, just meant to be around it. Wouldn't be right if he wasn't. Cal's family knew the Finigan family very well. His passion for the game, his love of the game. This guy wanted to play baseball. He loved playing baseball. On you as a shortstop, great instincts, great feel, stuff that cannot be taught. He was so receptive to learning. We worked on routes, so that's cool. We already touched on that, and that goes right in line. I love that. Him and Greg Andrews led D1 in double plays one year, and it wasn't by accident. We spent a ton of time on that. He wanted to learn. He was a sponge. That, combined with being a great athlete, was such a great recipe for success. Great feel, great instincts, great routes, phenomenal arm, made himself a great hitter. He got better and better offensively. It took a little bit of time, but he stayed with it and figured it out. Phenomenal hands. As a senior, he learned to hit the ball where it was pitched and did that very well. Didn't try to do too much. Really talked about you learning to hit backside gap doubles a lot. And that was cool. I don't believe anyone has ever done it before. First team as a pitcher and shortstop. One of the best shortstops in the country. Certainly the best in the MVC in the Midwest. Callahan doubled that. He was our best pitcher senior year and pitched Saturday. And he talked about that 2-day arm thing with the soreness. So I knew about that. such a free and loose arm. I remember that too. And athletic on the mound, had a great plan on the mound. Scouts wanted to draft him as a pitcher and a shortstop. We didn't know. Had great knowledge of pitching and how to pitch. Had wonderful command. I got a whole nother page here. We talked for a while. Sorry. Low 90s velo, great command, every pitch. He was the best. As good of a leader that I can remember at SIU. Wasn't obnoxious or arrogant. Never showed up anyone. Just showed up and worked his ass off. Wasn't afraid to get, up in your stuff if you didn't play hard. He he told a story about, maybe a physically bigger teammate, kind of maybe loafing or something like that. And you really came in the dugout and told him that was not okay in kind of a forceful way, I guess you would say. And, but that you had so much respect that player listened to it, as did your teammates. Likable guy. Everyone liked him. Man, this is interesting. So he told me the story about you and Nathan Emmerich. Are you still with me here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
About Nathan having, developing some yips, throwing.
For sure.
You guys would be having some funny conversations out there. You'd be trying to take his mind off it. So you'd be talking 100%. About random. I mean, it's like the Bull Durham. Like, what do we get him? Candlesticks.
I think the world of him, and he worked so hard and was such a good player. And he legitimately developed the yips, and I've never felt worse for a guy. He's one of those guys. He would still go out and take ground balls, and he'd be throwing it all over the place. And I'd go out there and be like, "Hey, man, I'm going to take ground balls with you at second base today." Yeah. I just wanted to be of support and talk with him and just be around him. Yeah. I still to this day think so highly of him as a person, let alone a player. And to see that, man, was kind of heartbreaking, right?
I'm sure, yeah.
And I knew how much he meant to us as a team and everything else. And man, it was one of those things that you wish he could help way more, and that it's really a mental thing more than anything.
And I remember, so I want to say, one year I played against him. He would have played for the Gems maybe in CICL.
Yes. Yep.
But he raked. He was like one of the top 3 hitters in the league. And I was like, okay, this dude's going to play pro ball. And I always wondered kind of what happened. And
a freak athlete, man, could literally play every position on the field until that. He has one of the coolest stories that he went to the Cape as an infielder. And that year we put him behind the dish just because we didn't have a catcher at Carbondale. Wow. He ended up being our starting catcher by the end of the year. Guy goes to the Cape League and makes the Cape League All-Star team as a catcher.
Just an athlete like that. Yeah, what? Who does that?
Come on, man. Nobody does that. So.
That's great, dude. All right. PJ has an awareness and gets it. Lots of people don't get it. He does. He relates to players as a player and a coach. So excited for him to get his new opportunity. It's long overdue. He's going to do a phenomenal job. His loyalty is phenomenal. He said he can see you coaching in the SEC someday, or just as easily. It's 20 years down the road, and you've built an absolute dynasty at Lindenwood. He just said that the possibilities are endless. I totally agree. It was a no-brainer bringing him into the coaching staff. He's a legend. When a legend wants to come home, you let him. That was cool. He can relate to players so much. He was great in between because I was getting older, and he was closer to the player's age. We already talked about that. He said, I listened to him. Oh, I loved this. Yeah. He said, I would tell recruits, I'm not going to be coaching you. He will. That's your guy. So I let him make pitching changes. I trust him completely and gave him, great. He valued your decision. He said you guys used to meet for breakfast and talk about things, and he really made it a point to let the other coaches say what they had to say and make a kind of a community decision a lot of times.
For sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's like I said, he's a huge mentor of mine, and it's so funny to hear him talk like that because he's an old school guy, man. He doesn't give a whole lot of compliments. And I was okay with that. And I was always around him, and he's so honest and open, whatever else. And it's really funny because our relationship did not start out the greatest because I was very quiet and grew a lot as a human being in college.
Yeah.
And when we first started out, he hated that. He hated that I was so quiet. And he pulled me in his office one time and lit me up like a Christmas tree. And it's like, if you don't start talking and you don't start, giving me feedback and whatever else, I'm going to get rid of you. I'm going to kick you off this team. And so it's so funny to hear him say I'm coachable and all this. Is man, I wonder if he remembers when, right?
I'm going to kick you off this team.
Yes.
Man, I can't even imagine kicking PJ Finigan off a team. Okay. Yes. That's the end of our quotes with him. He did talk a little more about your how it ended at Carbondale, but I think that's going to be that's going to be our off air stuff. And I love how you word stuff, and I understand the position you're in. So we can move on from there.
I don't look backwards much with that. And like I said, I love where I'm at. I love what's going on for me, and everything works out for a reason. Everything happens
100%.
for a reason. And this
Totally,
is certainly one of those.
So next stop, SIU Edwardsville. How do we end up there?
So I have a great relationship with Coach Lyons. A lot of built out of mutual respect, having been Bradley and Carbondale playing against one another. So that's where that starts. And then he asked me to come on and just to help out everywhere. And with my background is kind of doing both. My main responsibility is coaching the infielders and helping out with the hitters, which is a total pivot of what I've been doing. But I was really excited about that because I kind of got the itch towards the end of my career at Carbondale, like, hey, I might be suited to be able to take over a program.
Yeah.
And certainly then now being able to pair what I had done as a pitching coach for 9 years and then moving over and doing some offensive stuff and some infield play, like that kind of sets the stage for being in an interview and being able to speak to everybody on the team and things like that. So,
sure.
Yeah.
So you had an interesting stint there. You started off with the baseball team.
Yes.
Right?
Was there for a year and a half. The half year was the COVID year. And then got the wild opportunity
let's go.
from the AD. It was just a unique thing that I'd look back on, like, I don't really understand how it all came about, but it's essentially a failed coaching search on the softball side. And the AD came to me and said, hey, I think you're what they need, like somebody who's fun, communicate, can get the best out of the players and everything else. Would you have interest in doing this? And I start calling around to a bunch of people I know in the game of softball, and they're like, dude, you'd love it. Like, you really would. And decided I'm going to dive in and do this. And man, was it a crazy year, 100%. I very much enjoy the game. There was a lot of things that happened throughout the year that kind of tied my hands behind my back. And then at the end of the year, I actually had an out clause in my contract during all of this where I could go back to baseball.
Yeah.
So at the end of the year, I asked to do some things my own way in terms of the softball program. They kind of told me no. They did tell me no. And at that point in time, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to go back because this isn't what I want to do. And it doesn't really make sense to continue to do this, even though I very much enjoyed a lot of things about the job and the game and things like that. There were some cool parts to it. But like I said, when you're not able to run things the way you want to run it, it doesn't really make sense to be in charge.
Can you speak to that or no?
Yeah, a little bit. Like I wanted to make some staff changes. I wanted to, do some things my own way when it comes to some of the players and stuff like that. And it just wasn't the right time to do all of that for them. Okay. So with that made it really easy for me then to go back. And, basically what ended up happening was, I tried to enact that out clause. When that out clause came up, they asked for a couple of weeks to figure things out at SIUE. In the meantime, they put out a press release that I had stepped down.
Yeah.
And that was one of the blessings in disguise for me. I got multiple phone calls that day. I had 2 job offers in like the next day.
From where?
And then one of them ended up being Lindenwood.
Wow.
One of the administrators that I had worked with at SIUE, who I had a ton of respect for, had become the AD at Lindenwood and brought me over, showed me around. I interviewed for the assistant coach position here, and this place is special, man. Like it's a sleeping giant. There's just so many amazing things with the campus and where the program and campus are going. Like it was a no-brainer, absolutely no-brainer. And then it was kind of with the thought that at some point in time I may take over our coaching.
Was that how it was presented to you?
Yes, that might be the kind of succession plan after our coach retired. He was pretty close to it anyway.
Yep.
And before the season started this past year, he came into us and said, "Hey, I'm going to make this my last year." And then, legitimately, the next day, was in the AD's office with a job offer to take over full time and make this thing my own. So it's
So cool.
It's been a really cool year and a half here, and I'm so excited about where we're going and the campus and everything. Beautiful area. There's nothing that I can say bad about this place. It's
so I'm excited for you. I mean,
yes.
they just transitioned over to Division I a couple years ago. Is that accurate?
This past year was our first year, so
Okay.
this will be year 2 coming up, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful campus. So easy to recruit here.
Yeah.
So many good things going on.
What a great area.
I can't say enough good things about the place.
Yeah, you've got a huge, area to recruit from. I'm excited for you, man. It's in the Ohio Valley. Yeah.
Yes.
First time head coach Division I. This is amazing, dude. I'm so excited for your career to start. I mean, your career started, but now you're like the guy. You get to run it how you get to, how you want to run it. You've had all these amazing coaches that have mentored you, that have kind of
for sure
helped mold you along the way. So cool.
It's a very unique opportunity. I'm really thankful. For the first time, you just get so excited about being able to put your own stamp on things. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You pull all these things from all these other great mentors that I've had and everything else. And, I just think of how I want us to play and the things that I want our team to be about and all of that stuff. And then going out and recruiting and getting some of the guys that we're getting, it just gets you fired up to be a part of this. And, it's been obviously been 14 years in the making for this to come about, but I couldn't be more excited. And, I've said that since the first day that I coached the game in Chicago. Like, this is what I meant to do. There's no doubt in my mind. This is what I'm meant to do. And, to be in charge is definitely special.
Man, it's what like I said, what a baseball odyssey you've lived, my man. It's so cool. I'm so happy that you're in the game, that you're a part of it, and you're going to be continuing to impart all these PJ-isms on all these, guys going along, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, you and I have talked about that it is truly a baseball life. It's ingrained in everything that I've done since I was a little kid, and I get to live it every day. It doesn't ever feel like a job. It's truly special, and I'm very thankful that I'm able to pass along what I've learned and life lessons and everything else to these guys.
Tell me about the family these days. Tell me about the wife and the kids. What's up with them? Give me a little nutshell.
So we still live in Edwardsville. Courtney and I have been married. We'll be going on 13 years this year, but we've been together for 20. So she's been through the ringer of all of this, right?
High school sweetheart or
we met in college, and we've been together ever since. It's crazy to think how Springfield gets interwoven in all this. Her grandparents and her dad grew up in Springfield. He's a Southeast grad, played at Lincoln Land, played at Illinois State. So
really?
Yeah, so it's a small world, man. Like, we had no idea when we started dating, and it's just cool to see that all. And then we have a 10-year-old son named Turner. And then we have an 8-year-old daughter named Caroline, but we call her Cece, who Turner is just like her. Cece is just like me, and that scares the crap out of both of us. So, yes.
Are they into sports at all? What do we got going?
Very much so. Turner plays whatever is the season. So he's hitting some golf balls right now, getting geared up for flag football. He'll play basketball, and then he plays baseball in the summertime.
Yeah, so. Man. Beautiful life, my man.
It is, man. It's fun. It's so painful to go watch baseball. I struggle with it like crazy. And this is actually one of the first years I'm going to try to get involved now with having a little bit more free time with basketball and baseball, coaching a little bit, helping out a lot more than I have been.
Your dad talked about you being almost as excited about coaching your kids as you are about being a Division I head coach. Like, he says you get just as much enjoyment out of that. For sure. But I try to, like,
I just really enjoy, like, stoking the fire and allowing them to find out what they're interested in. I love that part of it. My daughter's really into soccer. I don't know anything about soccer, but I absolutely love going to her games and being encouraging and watching her play. Like, she's tiny, and there's such a toughness about it. Like, I love watching it. So I do. I really enjoy going to watch their games, and I don't really coach that much. I just try to be supportive. I know I see it all the time about parents that are so overbearing and things like that. I don't want to be like that. I just want to help out, throw endless amounts of BP, kick the ball in the backyard, whatever it may be.
Yeah. How does that arm hold up these days?
I can throw BP like crazy. So it's good. As long as I don't have to throw hard, it can last forever. So I just – it's like there's a governor on it. It can only go so much, so fast. But I still throw quite a bit of BP every day. And, I enjoy that part of it.
Man, well, this has been so dang fun. Let's I think we're kind of through the story.
Yeah.
I do have a lot of baseball questions, though, if you still got a little bit of time for me here.
Let's go, man. I'm
rip
free.
Through them. Man, all right, this has been so cool. All right. We knocked through about 8 of them before. I've probably got 30 of them here, so hang with me here. We'll start off with, what were some of your favorite ballpark songs that you heard at the ballpark all the time? Like ones that get played all the time.
Well, as crazy as this sounds, I absolutely love it's center field, but it's Put Me In, Coach.
Yeah.
As my grandfather and I were very close, and that was one of the songs that was played at his funeral.
Yeah.
And every time I hear that, it's a great memory of him. So I always love hearing that song every time.
That's a great connection.
Yes.
Man, that is cool. Who were some of your best teammates? Like guys that are like a good teammate, like pick you up guy that you can remember.
There's so many of those guys. That group of guys that I was with in Lakeland, Florida, that I love those guys. Greg Andrews is always the big one for me in college. Nathan Emmerich's one of those guys. Sal Frisella, Toby Barnett, like that group. Scott Beach and I have been interwoven in so many things that we've done. It goes back so far, but those are guys that have always meant a lot to me.
I've got one strange question here that just came off the top of my head because I heard the name Beach. And I remember hearing this like legend back when I was in Little League. You guys were a couple years ahead, that one of the Beach Boys put bouncy balls in one of his bats or something like that. Do you remember hearing stuff like that? Like just goofy things like that?
I can attest that. I can pretty sure that never happened.
Okay. I have no idea where that came from. But
no idea, but that to my knowledge, that never happened.
That wouldn't have even done anything, but I remember hearing it when I was a kid, like, oh man, this guy put bouncy balls in his bat and he was hitting home runs,
And we didn't have the money to be doctoring up our bats anyway, because if it broke, we're shit out of luck.
All right. Who were a couple of the most talented teammates you played with that never played pro ball that you thought, could have or just didn't line up for him?
Man, the biggest one that always comes in when I hear that is Eric Gum. Eric Gum was like one of those guys that you're always watching him move on the field and everything else, and you're just like, holy cow, this guy's just different. It was just, there wasn't anything he could do or he couldn't do. Like it was wild. And I still talk about the stories that go along with him, like, because he's such a character.
Yeah.
So you add that with the fact that like he's just a freak. Like it was like a larger than life legend.
Oh yeah, he could. I mean, he could hit some bombs and had a huge arm and wildly athletic. I think a lot of guys would answer that, as Eric Gum. Yeah, I totally agree. Any advice for a high level two-way player? I know that was difficult managing.
Take care of your body. Like that was the biggest thing. It wasn't until I really realized like how much I need to take care of my arm and body and the useless throws within practice are really, you don't realize how much they don't mean, but how much they add up.
Take a toll.
So that's where it comes in. Like I did all my throwing as a pitcher when I really figured it out, and I try to have our guys do the same thing, right? All your throwing comes as a pitcher, not as a position player.
Glove of choice. What did you roll with?
Well, I'm a huge Rawlings Pro Preferred guy, but Kenny Gann I had an Easton glove for like 10 years that Kenny Gann kept like so right. And then I'll never forget this as long as I live, playing shortstop in college. I started using it when I was 12. I was still using it in college.
You're kidding me. What?
And yes, that's what Kenny Gann did for it. And
incredible.
I'll never forget the day it died at Illinois State. A guy hit a line drive. I jumped. I thought I caught it.
Gone. Oh, we got you again? I hear something.
Gotcha. I'm back now.
All right,
good?
Yeah, we're good. All right.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I was just gonna say it was an Easton glove that Kenny Gann got for him that kept it right. And Illinois State guy hits a line drive. I jump to catch it. I swear to God, I catch it. It's going into left field, and I look down, and the glove is like in tatters. It's just blown apart. Never to be
R.I.P.
used ever again. So.
I can't believe you had a glove from 12 years old until college.
Yeah, we used it all through. This was the really late in my freshman year, and it was dead. It was gone.
So was that accurate information that I was getting passed back to me that you were changing how you formed your glove at Carbondale? Like they were teaching you different?
Yeah, a little bit. So you always like kind of had the rounded edge thing.
That's what kids in high school do. They always smash it down.
Yeah, they would smash it down. Right? And I quit doing that because it was like the ball was never sticking, right?
Yeah.
And so we started like flaring the edges out and kind of making it more to where like it was like a true hand. Yeah. And because of that, like I felt like I could field anything under the sun. Yeah. So it really was a thing.
That's the inside stuff, baby. All right. Yes. Who are some of your funniest teammates that you can remember? Couple. Man, that list is hard to really, obviously Eric Gum is the first one that comes to mind from growing up. He was such a character. Ryan Beach is one of those guys. In college, Kevin Koski should be the all-time hits leader in Carbondale history. He's one of the funniest human beings I've ever been around. One of my favorite teammates and everything. Like we were roommates for 2 years. The best hand-eye coordination maybe I've ever seen in my entire life. Okay.
It just still to this day, every time he calls, you got to answer because it's going to be 30-minute wild ride. So. Yeah.
Who's the most talented guy you ever played with?
Well, I got the chance to play with some really good guys in pro baseball. I mean, getting to be on the same instructional league team as guys like Verlander and Curtis Granderson and just guys like that where you're like, I mean, I've seen some guys, but like this is
different.
This is just silly. So
I think I already know the answer, but I mean, some of the best coaches or managers that you played for, we've already.
Yeah, I mean, having my dad, Tim Hewlett, growing up, I mean, that's pretty special. Andy Danner was awesome. I still love Andy Danner. Dan Callahan, Ken Henderson, Scott Pickler, Chris Pedezwa through the college stuff. And then really Mike Rojas and Britt Burns when I was in pro ball were game changers. Those guys have gone on to amazing things, and it's no surprise.
Hardest year in baseball?
Probably the year that I got hurt, right? Just because I wasn't playing. First time ever I was not playing. I didn't miss a single game in college. So even when I was struggling there, I was still playing. To not be playing was life-altering, life-changing.
I'm sure. You got about a little over 27 for your signing bonus. Is that accurate?
I did, yeah.
Did you buy anything with that?
New golf clubs.
There you go.
New golf clubs.
Do you looking back, would you have done anything different in your pro career? Any regrets, kind of how you managed all the arm stuff or anything like that? You already said you had no regrets. So
not at all. Not at all. I knew I did everything I can. I sleep well at night knowing that. There's nothing I could have done. So
what are you most proud of looking back on your baseball career?
Man, I to hear some of the quotes from people just about the type of teammate, I think that's probably what I'm most proud of. And I think of just winning, right? Like that's what you're ultimately judged on, right? Like those two things is what kind of teammate you were and if you won games. And I think that if those two things shine through, then that makes me proud of what I've accomplished.
Oh, I love that, dude. What are some of the favorite fields that you played at? Stadiums, fields?
I'm always partial to obviously Lanphier Park. Like it's just such an iconic place, and
Robin Roberts.
It's so bad now. It's kind of sad.
It's rough.
You got a chance to play at some cool places. Again, I got to play at Comerica. That was really cool.
Cool. Wow.
Got a chance to play there. Some of my favorite places, like at Missouri State, Hammonds Field there. I played the first ever game at Hammonds Field.
Oh, wow.
It was a chance to be a part of that. Played at Wichita State, playing at Ole Miss. Like all of those iconic places in college were really cool.
Yeah, I got to play at Ole Miss too, man. I was in right field and they handed it to me, man. They knew all my information and were giving it to me, boy.
Like I said, I gave up quite a few beer showers there, so I have fond memories of that.
Yeah. What's the most fun year you had in baseball?
Probably my senior year in college. Like there were times during that year where it was just like you felt a little bit like playing a video game, and then like there's some like just iconic and crazy moments that I'll never forget.
Would Dairy Queen be like number 2 that year?
Yes, that whole summer, and then the summer at 14 was probably similar to that, but those are right up there.
Most memorable game you ever played in?
Oh man, I don't know that I could ever put one up there. Maybe the Cape League Championship, maybe. That'd be about it, man. There are a few that come in between there. So,
did you have any pregame rituals or superstitions?
Not really. As I got to college, I really like to stretch quite a bit and just get my mind right. And then the other thing would be like I always have chapstick and usually some kind of candy with me because I can get a little cranky, and those two things seem to kind of get it back on track. So.
Did you have any teammates that had any funny rituals or superstitions or anything like that?
Man, all kinds of that stuff in pro baseball. Like you have guys that like meditate. You have guys that like I had a buddy, Kevin Whalen, who like sniffed grass and like all these like weird things, man. And I was never wrapped up in that, right? I was always into the preparation and all that other good stuff.
Yeah. Do you have? I know this is kind of a loaded question. Do you have any advice for like a 12-year-old or someone around that age that's like really fallen in love with the game and wants to be a pro player as they have dreams of that? Just like,
well, I think it's twofold. Watch the game, right? Like you can learn so much from just watching it in all different levels, right? Like not enough kids do that these days. Yeah. You can learn different things by just watching it, whether it be high school, college, pro, whatever. And there's chances to do all of that. Yeah. I think the second part of that would just be like, we get so wrapped up in nowadays and how hard you throw, how fast you run, all those little things. Like, just go out and enjoy it and just play the game. All the other things don't matter. Go out and enjoy it and play the game. And because of that, your love will grow for it.
Hey, PJ, I got to call you right back because we just hit our 2-hour mark on this one.
All right.
So I got a couple more questions. I'm going to call you right back.
All right, man.
I forgot to put in some of the Ken Henderson Hendo quotes and clips, so I'm going to throw some of those clips in right here talking about PJ.
Anybody that knows PJ knows this guy is one of the most phenomenal athletes I've ever been around in my life. He's literally a scratch golfer.
He is.
And he doesn't even play. I mean, matter of fact, he pisses me off because I'm playing, 100 rounds a year, and he's playing 10, and he's kicking my ass. But he is that talented at it, and he obviously was a great basketball player. Matter of fact, when we were at SIU, they had this noon basketball. All the people on staff would go play, and he just dominated. I mean, he would dominate the assistant basketball coaches. He's just that kind. So we knew we were getting a great athlete. His baseball knowledge was off the charts.
Everyone talks about that IQ.
Just phenomenal. Just an awareness of the game, and I think that's a gift. It's growing up in a baseball family, but a lot of people grow up around the game and don't truly understand it or don't see the little things. And he did. He notices little things in the game that a lot of people don't see, even other coaches and players. And he certainly was that way as a.
All right, we're back again. We're gonna finish out strong here. All right, that was a great answer there. I got a few more questions here. I got a lot more than I normally do. I had some help with Joey and Aper, and we wanna leave no stone unturned. We're gonna get everything out of you here. Bud.
Sounds good.
All right. Amongst the most successful teammates you ever had, what stands out outside of their talent?
I would think just the way they prepare. Like day in and day out, very, very consistent. I think the other thing is like their unwavering confidence.
Oh, yeah.
Like the guys that are like really good, I don't think people quite realize like how consistent they are, but then also how much they believe in their own ability, even if they don't talk about it. Like a lot of the good players don't talk about it.
Right.
They just know in their mind that they're better than whomever they're going against.
That's so important in baseball, and I totally get that. As someone myself who struggled sometimes with ups and downs and believing in myself, I get how important that is. And
for sure,
I can totally remember teammates that just had it. Like it didn't matter if they went 0 for 4. They were like, I'm still the best. It doesn't matter. And they could let it slide and keep believing in themselves. And
especially the game of baseball, because there's already so much built-in failure. Like if you don't believe, man, it's hard. It's hard to be successful.
Well said, man. Recommendation for someone trying to build arm strength. Like, were you a long toss guy, or what do you?
I was. I very much subscribe to that. Like, there's nothing, and I think that volume with long toss is another thing that's big, right? Like, don't just go to 120 or 150 or 200 and then throw 5 and come back.
Yeah.
I think you can train your arm just like you do to sprint and everything else. So long toss is big, but staying consistent and really building the volume up along with the distance.
Love that. Did reading ground balls come naturally to you, or was that something that just took thousands and thousands of reps?
You say both. Part of it was I was really good with my feet early on in my career because I wasn't very big and I couldn't make the throw from shortstop.
Yeah.
So I had to have good feet in order to get in a good position to be able to throw it. And then obviously once I got hooked up with Hendu and at Carbondale, it allowed me to slow down the speed of the game because of some of the things they were teaching. So I think it's a little bit of twofold. Worked really, really hard at it because it was so foreign to me.
Yeah.
But then also there were some instinctual things that took over at times.
Man, love hearing that. You're obviously a coach's kid. Your dad coached you growing up. It seems like coaches' kids inherently just know more about the game. How much, do you attribute that to your dad teaching you the game coming up?
A lot of it, and then we were just so ingrained with the game and whether it be basketball or baseball or whatever it may be, like we were always watching it. We were always talking about it. We were talking about the little things. And I think that's where it comes in. It's just, you have so many organic moments where you can talk about those things and you learn so much and that becomes so invaluable.
More satisfying, turning a double play or making a great play, or striking out someone in like a big situation?
Man, probably turning a double play. Like there's
nothing
more deflating. Nothing more deflating.
Okay, and this was like kind of was your arm injury preventable with less use? Do you feel like maybe trying to manage being a shortstop and pitcher contributed to kind of the downfall of your elbow?
It may have. I'm not saying that it didn't. But I don't know. I look back on that and always wonder that I play that what if game sometimes. I think it had a lot to do with changing my mechanics a little bit, and then also just like the wear and tear of trying to figure out the slider, right?
Yeah.
I think that had more to do with it than it did the other stuff. So.
All right. Would you ever take yourself out of a Cape Cod League game with a no-hitter going to chase a girl you met that summer mowing her dad's grass?
Absolutely not. And if she didn't understand that, it's not the right girl for you. I hate to tell you that.
That was the Joey Almsmeyer question.
Yes.
He's got a couple of really funny ones here. I'm going to go to the next funny one there.
And the best part about that, too, about being in the Cape is that my girlfriend, now wife, was in California working at the Pepperdine tennis camp. So she would be coming in from the night before when I was leaving for work because of the time difference. And so she gets it, obviously, always has. And having the ability to, like I said, she went and did her thing, I did my thing. And that's why it's worked out all this time. Is that
I love that.
There's so many good things about that.
Yeah. I got another funny one. Someone makes me laugh. Does he still feel the need to shave his mustache twice a day because it comes in so dark and thick? I'm looking at you right now, and I'm going to answer that yes.
Yeah, it's
those are some fertile mustache.
It shines more than anything else. It's always been an issue. Can't really do much about that.
Do you ever actually like bring it to a mustache, or is it just
never have? The only time maybe I've ever done that is in college. We all did it, and man, is it a bad look.
Man, it's great. Biggest difference in guys you coach now versus you were playing with 25 years ago?
I think the biggest difference is that they have the ability to know every answer that they want at a moment's notice on their phone.
Yeah.
And because of that, they get wrapped up in all the details way more than guys did 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Those guys were just kind of like, hey, let's just get wrapped up in the process and go practice and listen to what coach says and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of weeding through some of those things that help make those players better and why it's so different from 20 years ago.
I love that, man. That's That's perfect. How much focus goes into recruiting the right players versus how much goes into developing the athlete once you get there? Are you looking for someone that you can mold, or that's someone that's there, essentially?
The guy and the intangibles are so incredibly important.
There we go.
You gotta do your homework, because when you get to this level, everybody's talented.
Yeah.
It's the little things that show up that win games, and you have to have the horses. I'm not saying you go for guys that aren't talented, but within that talent pool, you got to find out what you got.
Yeah.
And find those characteristics that are going to get better, and that in crunch time you're going to be able to trust, because that's really when it matters.
I love that. Will you go after JUCO guys, or do you want guys that you can mold for 4 years?
100%. There's value in JUCO guys, and I think you can be very smart about how you go about those guys. We currently have about half of our roster that is.
Okay.
I like a mix and match of both. The one thing I do want to stay away from is the portal. The portal's just
crazy,
madness.
right?
It's speed dating on steroids, and it's not great.
Not cool. Not a big fan of it.
No, not at all.
What are you bringing along that Coach Cal obviously had you 4 years. You guys were very close. What parts of Coach Cal do you see showing up in your coaching now?
I think the biggest thing is I try to communicate the same way he did. He's very open and honest about what was going on.
Yeah.
And truly cared about us off the field. I try to bring that to what I'm doing. I think the other thing was allowing the players some freedom to know that they're invested just as much as you are.
Oh, I love
it. And there was little things that he allowed us to do that I felt like, I had stake in the game. So there are little things like that I allow our players to make decisions on, because, ultimately we're all in it together.
Yeah, man, I love that. Are there any elements of coaching that you didn't anticipate that have come up now, like dealing with social media, compliance, stuff like that? I mean,
I think I anticipated a lot of it. I think that the time away from your parent or your family is huge, right?
Yeah.
Because all of the recruiting you do, all the traveling you do with playing, and just all the little things that go into coaching doesn't allow for a ton of time at home. So I try to spend as much time with my family as possible. I knew I was going to be away a lot, but just as much as I'm going, it can be a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah. Okay. Do you look for, some of those traits that you had as a player in these guys coming up, these, IQ?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like late bloomers, guys that played multiple sports, guys that haven't been in the weight room yet, like little things that came from my background. Like you kind of gravitate to guys like that because you can speak to them and you've been where they've been and different things like that. And that matters in recruiting and then also development.
Yeah.
Like I got a lot better because I put on 50 pounds, right?
Sure.
Like that makes sense.
Yeah. What would make you, if you showed up to watch a guy, what would make you walk away if he did something on the field and you'd be like, nope, I don't want him?
One of my biggest things that I have a hard time with right now is really getting involved and liking guys that like try to make everything look cool.
Worried about that.
And worried about that and worried about the sliding mitt and the wrist tape and the chains and the swag. And I was a no swag type of guy, right? Like
I think you had natural swag. You didn't have to try for it.
I just wanted to play hard, and guys that don't play hard and are always worried about what it looks like are guys that really turn me off.
I get that.
Really turn me off because I just those are not the guys I want in the same dugout as me. It's just not. I want those guys that just have all out, just want to compete and go win.
I love that. Do you see any parts of your dad in you coaching wise?
Man, that's an interesting question. That our personalities are different, and a lot of people don't really know that. Is that I'm probably more of mom's personality than dad's. He has a lot of patience, and I would say that I have a lot of patience because of that. So that would be the number one thing that maybe we both possess that would shine through. Yeah.
Well, man, we're at the end of the line here, PJ. This has been so dang fun, man. I cannot tell you how much I've enjoyed this. I really hope you have on some level. Man,
I have, man. I have.
Seriously.
And like I said from the get-go, man, I'm very appreciative of what you're doing and all this time and everything else. The feedback's been incredible. This is special, man. I can't wait to hear all the rest of your episodes.
Yeah. So after we've talked baseball for probably 6+ hours now, I've texted you relentlessly. You've been cool the whole time. I'm going to declare us boys now.
For sure.
It's something I've always wanted to say. So PJ Finigan is now my boy. So I'm excited about that. I want to leave you with a couple things here.
Okay.
First of all, I want to shout out to Greg and Mary Finigan because, man, they did such an amazing job on you, man. You just have turned out to be an awesome guy. Everyone I've talked to sings your praises to the highest degree. I love talking to your dad. I love talking to him. Just hearing how excited he was to talk about your career, how proud he is of you, how much he believed in you. He got touched multiple times when we talked. And I just, people like you don't just grow out of trees. Mom and dad have to raise you and direct you, and just shout out to them. They did an amazing job. I know Mikey is awesome too. I don't know your sister, but I'm sure she is as well. So great job.
We've hit the jackpot there. I've said that many a time that they obviously have a huge role in all of this. And my dad is hilarious. I'm actually going to go see them right after this. They're in St. Charles.
Oh, cool.
My dad is still playing 65 and older softball today.
Is he really?
In St. Charles. So
that's amazing.
I'll get to have dinner with them and hopefully see a game this week.
Please tell them I said hello. Here's how we're going to leave you. So we're going to leave you on a Greg clip here. He is touched during it, and this one got me too. And it's honestly starting to get me a little bit just thinking about it. So I'm going to let you cry off air if you want to. But man, thank you so much for your time. This has been amazing.
Thank you. This has been great.
Yeah, this is the clip to give you some context of Greg talking about when you were given that jersey down in Puerto Rico. And I just thought it was such a great example of how much this man loves you. And, I'm just going to let it go. So Greg's going to take us away. PJ, thank you, brother. Thank you for everyone listening out there. I'm going to play this clip, and then we're both going to cry off air. So we'll see you, man. All right, here we go.
Before the second game, we're getting ready to play Puerto Rico. And these two very well-dressed guys come up there, and they got some stuff. And they say, Coach, can we talk to your little – excuse me. Can we talk to number 11?
Yeah. Next time, buddy.
I'm trying. Anyway, you get like this after you have open heart surgery, I swear to God. I wasn't like this before I had open heart surgery. Then everything gets you now.
Anyway, you're talking about PJ, man. Let it out.
There's so the guys come up and they say we need to talk to number 11. We've got something for him.
Yeah.
So they
you're gonna make me cry, Greg.
Yeah, it's tough one. Ooh.
Take a second, man.
Give me a minute. Take a drink here.
Absolutely.
But they come up and they gave him an official jersey for the Puerto Rican team.
Wow.
And it says Puerto Rico on it. It's like a national team thing. They said, we just love the way you play.
Oh, man. Wow. That is so cool.
Leading those kids. Oh, who's one of my whole life, probably.
All right, PJ, we're done, brother.
Thanks, man.
We'll talk to you
Appreciate
later.
that.
Thanks for listening, guys. All right.